A bell chimes as a warrior steps into a rowdy tavern, the place already packed with patrons. His armored hand resting on the hilt of his sword, he gets a nod from the bartender. "Old Kyo," the man says. Kyo just grunts, talking about a milk run he did with some rookies. He asks if the broadcast is on, and every single head in the bar swivels towards a massive screen. A live feed flickers on, showing a grand, official-looking hall. Inside, a council's vote has just concluded, passing a motion to completely strip a hero of his power. The president, a man named Hayo, steps forward. He begins rattling off a list of crimes pinned on a man called Mask, hitting him with charges of high treason and sabotage. The sentence is read directly to the accused. The penalty is death. But, for his past deeds, they offer him a twisted deal. He'll be stripped of his titles, but can keep the hollow name of hero. The entire bar is glued to the screen as the verdict drops. One guy passionately defends Mask's legacy, but another shouts back that the victory belonged to every hero. It sparks a massive argument about the past, with people slinging accusations that Mask is paranoid and dangerous, convinced he's either lost his mind or is just power-hungry. On the screen, Heyo offers one last, empty promise. Mask just listens, his face now hidden, his stare as cold and hard as steel. A single spotlight illuminates a man at a podium as our hero's eyes flash open, filled with a chilling purpose. He's surrounded by a silent, judging assembly. He remembers this exact moment, his own death, a devastating betrayal. This is the room where his own companions turned on him. This is where his life went completely off the rails. A system window pops into view, main quest complete, dumping him right back at this historic crossroads. But this time, he's taking the villain's route. His rival starts tearing into him, calling him a terrible leader, a relic who's holding back progress. He declares that this whole trial is designed to cast him out for good, to turn him into a powerless monument they can all forget. The members of the assembly smirk, trapping him in a web of words. A heavy silence descends on the hall as the blonde rival smirks, sure of his victory. Elsewhere, news anchors and pundits mock the hero, screaming for him to pay for his alleged crimes. But then, the hero makes an announcement that stops everyone in their tracks. The public is absolutely floored. His rival slams a hand on the podium, his face a mask of pure disbelief, unable to process what was just said. Our boy calmly repeats himself. He is renouncing his title. The rival accuses him of defying the parliament's decree, but our hero just turns his back and starts to walk, questioning everything he once fought for. The official demands to know why he won't just be a quiet, obedient hero for them. He screams for Mask not to leave, but our boy is completely unfazed. Watching him walk away, the official makes one final, desperate declaration. If he's no longer a hero, then he must surrender his power. In the audience, two men whisper, trying to figure out the official's real game. The spiky-haired one gets it. He wants to completely erase Mask's power. Others try to remember his official rank. A scarred warrior tells them he's ranked 13. That's leagues above anyone else. A realm of power nobody else will ever even touch. The official continues his grandstanding speech. He claims Mask's power belongs to the people, slamming his fist down, demanding he give it all back. Mask stops walking and turns around. A terrifying blue aura flares to life around him as he mulls over the demand, leaving the official sweating and speechless, while the other council members look on in abject terror. The audience is frozen in stunned silence. Mask raises a hand, a sphere of pure energy materializing in his palm, and agrees to give it back. The official flinches back in utter shock as the energy in his hand swells to an impossible size. Then, he unleashes a devastating wave of power. It surges through the hall. A man collapses under the immense pressure, begging for it to stop. Even the blonde official is struggling to stay on his feet. He's awestruck at this level of strength, fighting the overwhelming instinct to just drop to his knees. Mask stares back at him coldly. He's about to give them exactly what they demanded. A massive pillar of raw energy erupts straight through the building's roof, as onlookers on the streets below can only stare up at the insane phenomenon. A system alert screams through the city. A new king-class monster has been born, followed by a massive explosion of energy. It leaves nothing but chaos and destruction in its wake. The blonde antagonist somehow survived the blast and realizes his enemy is now just a normal human. He believes there's nothing left to fear. Meanwhile, the masked fighter stands silently in the ruins, his face still hidden from the world. He reaches up, removes the mask, and simply lets it fall. The blonde man shouts one last threat. Suddenly, a glowing red portal rips open in the air. It leads directly to the mother spider hatching nest. Cut to a different scene. Inside a frozen cave, a team of hunters is getting ready for a raid. Their leader is explaining that it's an easy job, making fun of the idea of being scared of some spiders. The team is just hyped for a quick payday. They're a little bummed they missed the trial of the masked fighter, but one of them points out the trial is the whole reason they got this gig. The captain tells them to knock it off. He orders them to move out and clear the dungeon. Right as they step through the portal, it flares to life behind them, and they all spin around. They sense someone else approaching. A lone figure steps out of the light, and it's our boy, walking into the exact same dungeon. The hunters immediately start roasting him for showing up with no weapon and no armor, but our boy is just hit with a wave of déjà vu, remembering his first time here, right after he awakened his powers. A system window flickers in front of him. He knows that the hero's path has already failed humanity once. This time, he's fully prepared to become a cold-blooded monster. The hunter's captain strolls over with a fake friendly smile, asking him where his weapon is. Our boy simply holds up his bare fist. The captain scoffs, assuming he's some kind of martial artist, before asking what his professional level is. The answer? He's only a level 1 professional. The entire team is completely stunned, silent by his response. The captain's hand tightens on his shoulder, model, asking if he's for real, calling him a total psycho for showing up just to get killed. But our guy snatches his hand mid-air, stopping him dead. He declares with unnerving calm that he's here to obliterate the monster. Another hunter just scoffs, saying the kid couldn't even handle their healer. The captain tells him to stay put if he wants to keep breathing, tossing a final sneering remark, "Don't expect to carry." The squad then descends into the cave. He's left in the dust, though one woman throws a worried look over her shoulder. A split second later, a female mage unleashes a cataclysmic explosion, annihilating a spider-like beast at the cave's entrance, and the captain shouts his thanks as the rest of the crew charges into the chaos. Our protagonist stands inside the blistering cavern as a female ally remarks on the captain's harsh attitude, but she tells him not to sweat it, explaining the captain has good intentions, and warns that one tiny screw-up in here could be your last. He just observes, "The pros have definitely gotten more careful," and she's taken aback, saying he sounds like some high-level official. She gives credit to Hero Mask's new policies for the drop in fatality rates. It's then she realizes she never even introduced herself. Her name is Yan Kian, a level 2 healer, and he introduces himself as Zio Q, a level 1 professional, which leaves her floored since he hasn't even picked a class yet. As he's thinking to himself that he's the one who literally created all of them, she suggests he should probably pick a spellcaster class to play it safe in the back. Her expression is full of pure, unscripted worry, as she apologizes for rambling, but he abruptly yanks her by the arm. He pulls her clear, just as a lethal purple spike impales the wall right where her head was. A teammate screams out a warning. It's a shadow spider. As a terrifying clawed limb emerges from a shadowy portal, our hero catches its razor-sharp leg with nothing but his bare hand. He shatters the limb with a single, brutal squeeze. Then, he wields the severed leg like a club, smashing it straight into the spider's face. The whole team just stares at the crumpled monster. One hunter mutters that not even master martial artists can pull off a move like that. He points out how he instantly targeted and destroyed the spider's weak point. The girl he saved clings to his arm, her face bright red, as a system window pops into his vision, confirming a nice chunk of experience points. He can feel it. His power is definitely going to skyrocket way faster this time. The squad's leader steps up to thank him for the clutch save, offering him a piece of the action, but our guy just waves it off like it was nothing. A nearby hunter starts sweating, thinking this new kid is totally trying to flex on them. The leader then unleashes a devastating arc with his colossal blade, and the team tears a bloody path through the rest of the spiders. He starts barking out the strategy for the next wave, telling a female warrior to get her fire skills ready for the webbing. Another hunter cracks his knuckles, guessing that Mask has probably been declared guilty by now, which prompts the female hunter to recall Mask's infamous slaughter in the city of Tuga. The girl he rescued is visibly distressed by the conversation, and immediately jumps to Mask's defense. She insists he only did what he had to do to stop a demonic plague. The spiky-haired hunter sneers, asking if she's on his payroll or something, but the leader shuts them down, telling them to quit beefing in front of the new guy. He announces it's time to take on the dungeon boss. He guides them further into a cavern choked with thick, sticky webs. The team steps into the lair, already dreaming about all the epic loot. Some are already debating how much they can get for the boss's corpse. Abruptly, the leader yells that something's moving. A grotesque spider boss erupts from the pitch-black void. Its colossal legs slam down towards the team leader just as one hunter vaults onto the monster's back, while another buries a spear deep into its carapace. Our protagonist observes that these creatures are completely mindless. A female archer looses a flaming arrow that smacks into the creature's armored shell, swallowing the entire beast in a blistering inferno. The captain brags about acing the raid without a single scratch and says he'll split the loot like always, but a teammate shouts that the treasure chest never appeared. Just as the archer senses another presence, a girl in a school uniform materializes from the shadows, her head bizarrely encased in an astronaut helmet. It dawns on the team why the loot chest was a no-show. This is the dungeon's secret boss. One hunter scoffs, totally unimpressed. The boss staggers weakly against the cave wall for a moment, then suddenly launches itself forward, its eyes blazing crimson. The overconfident hunter charges head-on to intercept. but his ally screams that it's a completely moronic move. The story of this bizarre monster continues to play out as our hero and the others watch the clash. The hunter smirks, having run the boss through the torso, and gets ready to land the finishing strike. But the wound on its body starts to twist and seal itself shut, and the hunter is suddenly trapped by eerie, glowing webs. The boss reels him in with a grip like steel. His teammates can only shriek his name in absolute terror as the leader realizes their physical attacks are useless. He screams for someone to use a flame spell. The team's mage immediately whips up a fire incantation, engulfing the astronaut helmeted boss in a towering column of fire. But the team leader watches, a pit forming in his stomach. Something is very wrong. The blaze rages with terrifying heat, yet the boss's legs remain perfectly still within the inferno, and she emerges without a single burn mark. More limbs sprout from her body. The team can only stare in utter disbelief, having never encountered a monster like this, as the captured hunter screams, still caught in her clutches. The boss delivers a single, lightning-fast kick, and the hunter's eyes go wide with pure, unadulterated horror. He's left a broken heap on the cavern floor as she looms over him. The archer lets out a furious roar, ready to get payback for his fallen brother-in-arms. Model, but Xiao Chu's hand clamps down on his arm, an ice-cold warning. One reckless move, and he's dead meat. The team leader's jaw tightens. He knows it's a suicide mission. To make matters worse, the escape portal is sealed for another 3 agonizing hours. Fall back to the entrance. Fight your way out, he screams, just as the grotesque boss winds up for another deadly assault. A fresh volley of its lethal silk threads rockets towards them. The archer counters with a shower of glowing arrows, sinking them deep into the monster's hide, but the creature doesn't even flinch. A blood-curdling scream tears through the cave as a hunter gets snagged, yanked helplessly toward the thing in the astronaut helmet. Its chest suddenly splits open into a horrifying, gaping maw, and a crimson mist explodes into the air. The female hunter watches, frozen in sheer terror, as her teammate is skewered on its monstrous fangs, his body slumping lifelessly to the cavern floor. Enraged, the captain charges in, his fist blazing with fire. He slams the boss with every ounce of strength he has, but his eyes go wide in disbelief. His full-power attack did literally nothing. In a flash, those same white threads coil around his body. This is it. He screams for his sword, a final, desperate plea. Sheer dread washes over his face as he strains for the weapon, just inches from his grasp, but his feet feel like they're bolted to the floor. A massive spike erupts from the monster's side, punching straight through the captain's chest. The creature now looms over another fallen warrior, while Xiao Chu props up an injured survivor. The archer starts panicking, screaming that she doesn't want to die, before she turns and bolts for her life. But Xiao Chu calmly states the boss let her go on purpose. Fear, he says, just seasons the meal. Yan Qian just stares, completely bewildered by the term God-chosen. Xiao Chu just scoffs, picturing the mountains of so-called chosen he's already put in the ground. The boss suddenly crumples to its knees, shrouded in a sinister dark aura that abruptly detonates with overwhelming power. Yan Qian throws up a poison-repelling spell just in time. Violent purple energy smashes against her protective shield, and she realizes it's not poison at all. It's pure, crushing spiritual pressure. The boss slowly rises, its power flooding the entire cave as its glowing red eyes lock onto their prey. It taunts Xiao Chu for not crumbling like the others, but our boy just smirks back, remarking that its pressure feels kinda weak. He stands there, totally unfazed by the assault, and reveals a sliver of the monster lurking within him. The boss is instantly blasted backwards as his true demonic form starts to surface. His eyes blaze with colossal power as he unleashes a savage counterattack, launching the boss clear across the chamber, but it recovers in a heartbeat, rocketing forward again with terrifying speed and ferocity, a trail of dark energy streaming in its wake. Out of nowhere, one of its spider legs is sliced clean off in mid-air. The demonic form mockingly compliments the severed limb. In response, the boss fires back with a web of pure energy that explodes in a blinding flash. When the light fades, a new monster has appeared, trashing the secret boss for being a total failure. It calls her a low-level chosen one who never stood a chance. Then it blitzes forward in a blur of motion, unleashing a devastating storm of slashes. The spider boss is absolutely shredded by the brutal onslaught. Trapped in a web of dark energy, her red eyes blaze as she struggles to break free, but the new monster's attack is relentless. She is slammed into the ground, completely and utterly dominated. She reaches out one last time before finally collapsing. The monster pins her with a single hand, poised to deliver the fatal blow, when a system prompt declares the raid complete. A mission reward drops into their inventory, the spider's foot, and just like that, all survivors are automatically warped out. The scene cuts to a bustling modern city, where the team captain is being rushed to a hospital, looking like he's barely hanging on. Yan Qian frantically searches for Xiao Qiu, who has completely vanished, until she suddenly spots him across the street. The sunlight gleams off the city skyline, but Xiao Qiu can only stare at the insane apartment rental prices. It hits him. He's flat broke, and has absolutely no idea how to survive in this world. Just then, a young woman calls out his name, waving her arms, and our boy turns around, looking a bit dazed. She recognizes him as the healer from the raid, and asks if he's looking for a place to crash. An idea seems to spark in her eyes. She explains that Daw City is pretty new as they stroll through an older, more run-down district. She casually kicks a small rock from her path before leading him to a modest-looking house. He spots a medal on the wall, a symbol of her father's service as a level 5 hero. She excitedly says her dad used to fight alongside the legendary hero, Mask, but then just waves it off as a drunken tall tale. When Xiao Qiu asks where her father is now, she quietly explains, the war took his life. He then asks about her mother, who passed away giving birth to her sister. She forces a brave smile, saying it's all in the past now. Then she offers him a place to stay for the night, pointing to an empty room in the left wing. He gratefully accepts, vowing he'll find a way to repay her. Suddenly, the soft whir of a wheelchair approaches, and Yan Qian introduces him to her sister, Qian Liu. But Qian Liu just gives him an icy stare and wheels herself away. Yan Qian quickly apologizes, explaining her sister is just really upset about Mask's Judgment Day. In her room, the girl stares at her monitor, doom-scrolling through hateful comments trashing the hero she admires. The young woman is seething, furiously defending Mask's honor online when a voice calls for her to come eat. She just yells back that she's busy, annoyed that there are guests over, and she's expected to actually greet someone. Elsewhere, Yan Qian manages to coax her sister out of the room, and they sit down for a simple meal with Xiao Qiu. As he eats, his mind flashes back to his old life, to years spent eating nothing but unseasoned monster meat. When you're fighting for the survival of mankind, any chow is a godsend. On the TV, a news report blares. Mask has completely vanished. Two talking heads debate the official government narrative. One claims Mask is just faking his power down to dodge his past crimes, as another anchor just soaks it all in. He chews on that theory, a knot of worry tightening in his gut about what Mask's absence means for humanity's already shaky peace. But the professor just scoffs, dismissing the hero worship and declaring that humanity is perfectly capable of moving on without Mask. Yan Qian looks over, asking if Mask is really some kind of fugitive, as she clocks Zhao Qiu inhaling his fourth bowl of rice. He just repeats what the TV pundit said about Mask's crimes, but Yan Qian passionately argues he must have had his reasons. His stone-cold reply leaves her shook. He literally could not care less about Mask. Out of nowhere, a violent pounding thunders at the front door. Her blood runs cold. She knows who it is, the Kaizhong Investment Company. She braces herself and opens the door to a group of shady-looking dudes crowding her porch. She stands her ground, flat out telling them she's not selling her house. A guy in a tacky floral shirt just sneers, reminding her that her team is gone. He gives her a 5-day ultimatum. His offer? A measly 100,000 for her land. She's stunned by the absolutely insulting lowball, and he just laughs, mocking her for being so clueless. Then, his eyes lock onto someone behind her, assuming it's her new boyfriend. He barges past her, sticking out a hand to introduce himself. Tujing Kenzo, he says with a smug grin, and Zhao Qiu actually shakes it. Yan Qian screams a desperate warning, telling him Tujing is a mental attack specialist. A wicked smirk spreads across Tujing's face, thinking his trap just snapped shut. Zhao Qiu is completely unbothered. This mage dives into his target's mind, planning to leave the guy a vegetable for weeks. But what he finds is a black, empty void. His cockiness shatters in an instant when he realizes this is Zhao Qiu's mental landscape. He immediately tries to bail, his face twisted in raw terror. Right in front of him, a colossal wave surges up from the dark abyss. It crashes down with crushing force, completely submerging him in his target's immense power. The thug's eyes fly open, filled with absolute dread, and he just screams that Zhao Qiu is a monster. His buddy grabs him, desperately trying to shake him out of his catatonic state. While Yan Qian tries to figure out what kind of new attack this is, a hand shoots out, stopping the aggressive thug cold. His associate warns him to think twice, the realization dawning that Zhao Qiu has to be, at minimum, a level 3 professional. The man scoffs, admitting they seriously underestimated her new backup, before spitting out one last pathetic threat. Yan Qian turns to Zhao Qiu, completely shocked that he just handled that creep, and asks how long she's been putting up with them. She explains they've been harassing her non-stop since her father passed, and they only laid off when she joined a professional team. Zhao Qiu mentions a policy he personally established to protect the families of soldiers, but she just shakes her head bitterly. She tells him it never did any good, explaining that the system always bends for the rich. He listens in stony silence, his expression hardening. Later on, he's helping her with chores in the kitchen, She thanks him for chasing off the thugs and asks what his plans are for raiding dungeons, warning him about the risk of betrayal from teammates. Zhao Qiu has to fight a bitter laugh. As Mask, he literally wrote the law to prevent that. But he knows his old life is over. On this new journey, a monster is destined to walk alone. A new system prompt materializes before him. A solo mission inside a level 4 realm. A sliver of blue energy slices through the air in a huge empty hall, exploding into a swirling, chaotic portal. And Zhao Qiu strolls right through, having completely bypassed the official system. He takes a look around at the dungeon's medieval European architecture. He walks cautiously across the checkered marble floor until he comes to a stop in front of two menacing gargoyle statues. All of a sudden, the stone begins to fracture as their eyes ignite with a piercing red glow, and a system prompt IDs them as level 3 scarlet gargoyles. He knows these things are tough demons that are resistant to magic. Realizing Yan Qian's team would have been absolutely slaughtered here, the two monsters lunge forward with terrifying speed, their stone mouths roaring as they zero in. But Zhao Qiu just smirks, pitying how unlucky they are. He unleashes his true demonic power, and an instant later, he's standing over their pulverized remains, a single severed claw lying shattered on the floor. Now in his full monster form, he ventures deeper into the cathedral as even more stone statues begin to stir within the dense mist. He stands surrounded by the debris of his fallen enemies and a waking horde. The newly awakened gargoyles all brace to attack as one. An overhead shot shows him at the epicenter of the swarm. They all dive down, a living avalanche of stone and fury, but he just morphs his arm into a massive, glowing blade, and he tears through the first attacker with devastating power. The monster is instantly ripped to shreds by the savage assault. Zhao Qiu's demonic form leans in close to a gargoyle, his voice a low growl as he asks if it's scared. Then he smashes it into a wall with unbelievable force. His glowing red eyes survey the absolute destruction as a stone guardian calls him a monster in a human shell. It screams that his very existence is an insult. Back at the entrance to the dungeon, the massive doors are still sealed tight, until a brand new team kicks them clean off their hinges, stepping into the eerily silent hall. A teammate asks if they're the first ones to arrive, and the captain confirms the bureau had the entrance on lockdown. But then, a woman on the team notices something weird on the ground. Kneeling down to analyze the huge cracks in a shattered gargoyle, she realizes with dawning horror that it was ripped apart by hand. Model. With the captain still reeling from the impossible sight, his teammate simply gestures towards the sky, her terrifying theory now a fact, revealing the sheer scale of destruction they left in their wake. Back at the Secret Realm Inspection Bureau, a high-ranking official smashes a report onto his desk, demanding to know who's responsible for this epic failure, and accusing the entire bureau of letting unregistered players run wild in the realms. A senior director practically screams that this is a crisis for all of humanity, pointing out that an unregistered person could easily wipe out official teams, reminding everyone that humans were once the most terrifying monsters. Inside the dungeons, he brandishes the file for the level 4 gargoyle secret realm, laying out the facts. The intruder is most likely a peak level 4, maybe even a level 5 professional. The director is convinced it's a one-man army because every single monster was annihilated with the exact same savage technique. A man details how a solo player steamrolled multiple realms and commands his team to monitor the markets for any of the stolen loot. The scene cuts to the Daw City professional market, where a jacked dude is making a purchase, slapping a fat stack of cash into Xiao Chu's hand. Our boy has a nagging feeling he got lowballed on his items, but hey, at least it's enough to make rent. Just a few feet away, he hears someone getting shamelessly ripped off. It's Yan Qian, trying to sell an old but clearly cherished sword, but the slimy shopkeeper is calling it worthless scrap metal. He puts on a big show of generosity, offering a measly 3,500, all while knowing he's looking at a jackpot. This blade is infused with a rare material worth well over 10,000. He's pressuring her to take the deal right now, but a voice cuts through the tension, telling her to hold up. Xiao Chu's gaze sharpens, seeing right through the con, as a system prompt flashes, identifying the blade as a level 5 weapon soaked in the blood of a demon god. He steps between them, telling Yan Qian he'll buy it, which makes the shopkeeper blow a gasket and tell him to get lost. Xiao Chu just blanks him, shoving all his cash into her hands instead. Later, the two are sitting on a park bench, and she's trying to give back most of the money, saying 1,500 is more than enough, but he won't take it, telling her to use it for rent and food, trying to explain that the sword she's holding is worth a fortune. She just stares at him, realizing the boy is just as much of an enigma as the blade. She confesses that she saw him bail from the dungeon early, and the name Flying Crow flashes through Xiao Chu's mind. Yan Qian's shoulders slump in defeat, feeling powerless to uphold her father's legacy, revealing she desperately needs the money to keep her sister alive. She brings up the Great Ghost Incident, an attack by a level 10 monster, explaining her father died fighting it, leaving her with nothing but his sword. The creature's lethal radiation stained the sky a sickening green, and she explains her sister, Qian Liu, was once a sword genius but now needs constant medical care for the radiation poisoning she suffered. Xiao Chu remembers that monster. It went down with a single punch. He asks about the victim compensation fund that he created under his alias, Mask. She looks like a massive weight has been lifted, ready to go home, but as they start walking, two guys in slick suits start tailing them. One of them questions if they'll even find the secret realm, but his partner has total faith in their director's analysis, swearing they'll hunt down the thief who plundered it dry. The camera cuts back to the house, now under an ominous, dark sky. Inside, Qian Liu is flaming trolls online when a frantic, desperate banging erupts from the door. Her eyes go wide with fear. The Kajang Investment Company. The violent pounding on the front door just gets louder, and her expression hardens into grim resolve. She wheels herself towards the chaos, her hand gripping a wooden sword. She prepares to face whoever is breaking in, braced for a fight. The front door splinters, kicked clean off its hinges with a deafening crack, and the lead thug smirks, realizing someone was home after all. He spots Qian Liu and cruelly starts mocking her for being in a wheelchair, but she just screams and charges him. She swings the wooden sword with every fiber of her being, only for him to effortlessly knock her to the floor. Sprawled and helpless but seething with fury, she glares up as he stomps his boot on her sword, pinning it. He sneers, asking how she expects to reach him now. The leader tells his crew to tear the place apart and find the others, promising to get revenge on Xiao Chu. His goons start trashing the house, but come back empty-handed, reporting that nobody else is around. He decides to just grab Qian Liu as a hostage to draw them out, but his subordinate warns him that kidnapping is a bad idea. The leader pauses, then a dark, twisted idea forms. They'll just stage a little accident involving a garbage truck. His men chuckle, catching his sinister drift. As they finally leave, the sky opens up, and a torrential downpour soaks the entire city. Meanwhile, Yan Qianqian and Xiao Chu are almost back when her face contorts in pure horror. She sees her sister, sprawled on the ground in the pouring rain. Qian Liu is drenched and defeated, but her eyes are burning with a cold fury. Yan Qianqian shrieks her sister's name, sprinting forward as Xiao Qiu kneels to help the girl up, knowing full well who's behind this. Yan Qianqian asks Xiao Qiu to get her sister out of the storm, and he wheels Qian Liu under the shelter of the eaves as the rain hammers down. Yan Qianqian just stands there, staring at a literal mountain of garbage that was dumped in front of their home by a man who now taunts her, calling her house a garbage dump. His buddy laughs, telling her to take a nice long shower in the rain, calling the trash a special gift from the Kajang Company. Qian Liu's hand tightens on her wheelchair, trembling with uncontrollable rage, and she tries to launch herself at them, but Xiao Chu holds her back. He tells her she'll only make her sister feel worse, as they both watch Yan Qianqian stand alone, abandoned in the relentless storm. Soaked to the bone and completely crushed, she stumbles back, and the three of them just watch the downpour in a heavy silence. Kindelu finally turns to him, her voice cracking, and pleads to know if there is any justice left in the world. His reply is instant and ice-cold. There never was. She tries to argue about what is fair, but he cuts her off, calling fairness a complete fabrication. Grabbing her wooden training sword, he explains that injustice is the one thing that spares no one, declaring that the entire world is rigged against them. Then, with a sharp crack, he splinters the blade in two, and a scream of pure, hopeless agony rips from her throat. He says her family's tragedy is insignificant to him, but admits that chaos seems to hunt him down anyway, as he marches out into the deluge. She cries out, asking where he could possibly be going, and he turns, delivering a chilling vow to erase them all. She calls him insane, warning him Kaijang's boss is a level 5 professional, but Zio Q just stands in the storm, gripping the ancient sword as a tempest gathers over the city, its epicenter right above the Kaijang investment tower. Up inside, two suits are celebrating their latest redevelopment scheme. Totally oblivious as Zio Q approaches their fortress, alone. A man in a tailored suit guards the colossal lobby, while his spectacled superior senses something is wrong, spotting a lone silhouette emerging from the revolving doors. He writes the kid off as just another punk looking for trouble, while two guards move to intercept, barking at him to drop the weapon. They attempt to block his path, but he glides right past them, and in a split second, the man with the glasses is hit with a horrifying vision. His men are instantly shredded in a geyser of blood. A new mission alert flashes for the blood sacrificial blade, ordering him to unleash Flying Crow and annihilate all hostiles, promising a power-up for the sword with their lifeblood. Just then, more guards armed with katanas spill out of an elevator, swarming him as he stands over the mangled bodies. A team leader alerts his squad to the hostile threat, and 4 swordsmen lock into formation around him. 2 of them lunge, screaming the command to engage, but, Their blades are parried with contemptuous ease by Flying Crow. Zio-Q moves like a phantom, severing both their heads in one seamless, brutal motion. The last guard just stares, his own weapon glowing. He plunges his blade deep into a goon's chest. The sword is a literal blur of death, carving through another guard without a moment's hesitation. A survivor thinks he's spotted a weak point and dives in for the kill shot, but Zio-Q just casually backhands him into a wall with a bone-shattering punch. The man is floored by his insane physical stats as Zio-Q calmly strolls through the absolute carnage he's unleashed. Meanwhile, the company's president is bragging about seizing the sisters' property, while his partner daydreams about the incoming profits. Their celebration is cut short when a subordinate bursts in, screaming that someone is slaughtering their way up the building. He explains that a single invader is responsible for the entire bloodbath, but the leader just scoffs, sneering that they only target the helpless. He announces he's going to check out this little disturbance himself. The boss rips his gigantic battle axe from its wall mount, and his two top lieutenants trail him into the corridor. He freezes, feeling a sudden, chilling shift in the atmosphere, just as one of his men down the hall begs for his life. A crimson flash of energy obliterates the man instantly, revealing Zio-Q at the top of the stairwell, his eyes blazing with power. The boss and his crew are stunned silent, but he quickly regroups, reminding them that they're all level 4 professionals. The trio ignites their weapons and abilities, demanding to know why Zio-Q is waging war on their corporation. But Zio-Q knows his human shell won't be enough for this fight, and the lights suddenly flicker and die, throwing the entire floor into pitch-black darkness. They figure he's some kind of assassin trying for a sneak attack, but the gunman just smirks, boasting that he is the king of the dark. He flips on his night vision, his eyes glowing an eerie green, but the sight that greets him from the floor below makes his blood run cold. It is Zio-Q, who has now unleashed his true demonic form. Outside the tower, the storm howls, and inside, the gunman starts to sweat bullets. He sees the demonic monstrosity at the far end of the hall, and it lunges forward in a terrifying, inhuman blur. In an instant, its blade rips through his shoulder, and his partner calls out his name, the coppery scent of blood hitting his nose. He knows his friend is already gone. Another flash of crimson and black energy erupts, and the axe wielder barely manages to block the strike. He knows, with chilling certainty, that a fraction of a second slower, and he would have been cleaved in two. The boss observes the battle with a grim scowl before summoning a colossal ice arrow from thin air. Zio-Q looks up at the incoming magical missile, raising a single hand to meet the spell. The massive projectile crashes down on him, but he obliterates it with a casual flick of his wrist, leaving nothing but a path of utter devastation. The axe wielder hears a sickening noise, letting out a scream of pure terror. The boss looks up to see a towering demonic silhouette, just as a thin red line traces itself across his throat. He chokes out one final, terrified curse. As the blood-drenched sword drinks its fill, the last of the company's men can only stare in mute horror, stammering in disbelief at the massacre. Before them stands Zio-Q in his full demonic glory, his glowing eyes surveying the field of bodies. But a new voice suddenly roars for him to stop, revealing a swordsman perched at the top of the stairs. Zio-Q instantly feels the immense power radiating from him, a level 6 professional. But the man is confused. He senses no demonic insanity, ruling out a simple transformation ability. He realizes he's looking at something else entirely, a being caught somewhere between human and demon. He cracks a smile, realizing this incredible find is going to make his sponsors very, very happy. The swordsman vanishes in a flicker of movement. With a flash of emerald energy aimed straight for the skull, the strike lands true, fracturing the demonic facade. The swordsman's lips curl into a triumphant smirk. He thinks he's found a weak spot. He then explodes in a furious storm of energy strikes, relentlessly shredding Zhao Chu's armored form. He scoffs at the demon's refusal to die, calling him a roach, while charging up a final, devastating finisher. He thrusts forward, his rapier blazing, utterly convinced his foe stumbled right into his brilliant trap. But the boss's hand darts for a hidden weapon, whipping out a massive hand cannon of a revolver. He fires directly into Zhao Chu's face, smirking that this freak wasn't being taken alive. The corpse alone would fetch a high price, but his smug certainty instantly crumbles into raw disbelief. Zhao Chu stands there, without a single scratch, his glowing eyes practically screaming that he saw that move coming a mile away. He even identifies the boss's sword technique, noting that it was crafted exclusively for the righteous. The boss just bellows with laughter, snarling that slaughtering monsters is an act of righteousness. Zhao Chu's voice turns to ice. And obliterating families? Is that righteous too? But the boss couldn't care less about his target's tragic backstory. He proclaims that anything obstructing progress is a crime, and he will forever be on the side of justice. Zhao Chu absorbs this, then states with chilling simplicity, "I understand now." And then he unleashes his own definition of justice, a blur of pure crimson and shadow. erupts past the boss's cheek, solidifying into a horrific blade just inches from his eye. The man can only gape in sheer terror, as a demonic tendril punches through his shoulder while a second one impales him straight through the mouth. Outside, the storm rages, completely oblivious to the massacre within. The boss hangs limply, impaled on demonic limbs, gasping out one final question. What kind of monster are you? Zhao Chu's demonic presence simply asks if he hadn't made himself clear, reminding him of his true nature. As his power absolutely explodes around him, the sword in his hand begins to vibrate, humming with a sinister, blood-red light. As his demonic fist clenches the hilt, a system window materializes, heralding the sword's rebirth, now christened Blood Raven, a legendary weapon with unlimited potential for growth. He studies the blade, accepting its new name, swearing he can feel a faint heartbeat from deep within the steel. The last surviving henchman babbles incoherently, paralyzed by sheer terror, but Zhao Qiu is a silent, imposing shadow. The thug collapses to his knees, sobbing and pleading for mercy. As Zhao Qiu raises the newly awakened blade, he gives the weapon its very first command, and it responds by unleashing a cataclysmic wave of blood energy. The last goon is completely consumed by the attack, his body annihilated in the crimson flood. The blast erupts from the pinnacle of the tower, a red spear piercing the stormy heavens. High above the city, a tactical response team watches, completely stunned, as a soldier reports to his commander that the building is locked down. But the commander orders them to stand down. He states that while there are few innocents inside that building, it is the government's place to deliver judgment. He vows that no matter what happens, they will be dealt with according to the law. A soldier shouts that someone is emerging from the building as Yan Qian has a horrifying realization. He went to Kaijiang alone. A wave of panic crashes over Yan Qian. Convinced he's about to die, she snatches an umbrella and plunges out into the storm, her sister's frantic calls swallowed by the gale. Outside, she stops in the downpour, searching wildly, until a city defense army soldier intercepts her. He requests her cooperation with an ongoing investigation. Holding out a photo, he asks if she knows the man pictured, and her eyes fly open in recognition. It's Zhao Qiu. The soldier confirms he's not only alive, but in perfect health. The scene then cuts abruptly to a city defense army black site. Inside an interrogation room, Zhao Qiu is strapped to a metal chair. A commander with stark white hair asks if the prisoner has cracked yet, but his subordinate reports he's only copped to the assault. His name is Zhao Qiu, but he's a complete ghost in the system. The investigation did, however, connect him to a woman named Yan Zixi. The commander asks for her file. She's a level 2 healer, and her father was a level 5 professional. Her dad was a retired soldier, slowed by an old war wound, who died during an incident that also crippled his other daughter. Yan Zixi's testimony states that she met Zhao Qiu inside a secret realm, and claims he attacked Kaijiang only to defend her family's land. The commander remarks on what a vicious swordsman he must be, just as another official enters. Addressing the commander as Director Arthur, the stern-faced newcomer decides they'll have to get the answers, straight from the source. The commander kicks the interrogation room door open, and Zhao Qiu looks up from his chair, completely unbothered. His expression is a placid, unreadable mask as the director storms in, who wonders for a second if the kid is trying to stare him down. But then he sees the boy's gaze is fixed on his cloak, with a look of strange familiarity. The other official holds up a file, confirming Zhao Qiu's identity, as the commander sits, spelling out exactly how deep the consequences for his actions run. He is offered 2 ways out, a death sentence, or a one-way ticket to the front lines. The commander clarifies that this atonement battalion is nothing more than a suicide squad, but Zhao Qiu simply asks if fighting monsters is really supposed to be a punishment, before admitting he's already done his time on the front lines, just in a completely different capacity. This revelation completely stuns both officials, and the commander realizes they might finally have a way to identify this mystery man. The other official adds that he and Director Arthur were also on the front line, but it was the legendary mask and the original heroes who actually built this piece. Commander Arthur gestures to the medals pinned on his chest, bragging he served under Lord Mask even if it was just from the cheap seats. Suddenly, an official smashes his fist on the table, roaring at Zhao Qiu to grasp just how thin the line they walk is, especially right outside the federal parliament. His voice bounces off the cold, bare walls of the interrogation room. He gets right in his face, hissing, "Do you get it now?" laying out how his little stunt could unleash mass hysteria and a heavy body count. Zhao Qiu just takes it, head bowed, not saying a word, as the 2 men try to burn a hole through him with their glares. Another official just scoffs, spitting that fighting the federal government is a losing game, and tells him to just confess before they ship him off to the capital. But for Zhao Qiu, that's not even on the table. A new mission notification pops into his vision: the Great Obscenity Reincarnation. A disaster-class monster is about to spawn from leftover radiation, and Zhao Qiu remembers this. He's lived through this before. The last time, when he was the hero mask, he was dispatched to the front lines. He wiped the floor with that thing. Easy. But afterward, the public crucified him for every single casualty. So now he thinks, why the hell should I care if any of them live or die? Back in the present, two officials are going over his file, one of them blown away by his off-the-charts speed and power. His conclusion? Zhao Chu is a dual wielder, maybe even more. A total prodigy who took down a level 6 threat while juggling multiple skill sets. This director calls him an idiot for throwing it all away for Kaijiang, reminding his partner that even the legendary mask got dragged through the mud in court. He grinds out his cigarette, absolutely convinced this kid doesn't have a prayer. And as his past and present crash together, we cut to the federal government's heart, Star City. A sprawling metropolis forged from the ashes of humanity's dark age, now a gleaming beacon of a high-tech future. Deep inside, a council is heatedly debating Zhao Chu's bloody rampage. The leader points out his young age and absolutely terrifying potential. But another official slams the table, demanding a public execution, revealing Kaijiang was his asset and screaming for blood. The president just calmly confirms it. He's the one who sent the prisoner to the front lines. His subordinate is stunned, asking why he wasn't just executed for everyone to see. Elsewhere, a bruised executive whines about his authority being undermined, but the president cuts him off, pivoting to demand why they still don't have a location on Mask. The tension in the massive boardroom is thick enough to cut with a knife as he pores over the documents, furious that Mask just dropped off the face of the earth, paranoid he's going to pop back up and wreck all their plans. An aide tries to placate him, insisting Mask is a nobody now, while another chimes in that they all literally felt his power signature vanish. The board writes him off as just one guy with no backup. But to the president, any wildcard is a direct threat to his grip on power. He remembers all the political capital he burned to kick Mask out and declares they find him before doing anything else. The next item on the agenda is bleak. The monster frontline is collapsing. Monster appearances are up by a jaw-dropping 32%. The president looks sickened, wondering aloud if his entire military is worthless without Mask. A guy in glasses stares at the number, his eyes wide, daring to ask if maybe they pushed their golden boy too far. The president's glare is pure ice, and the man immediately starts backtracking, stammering that he would never, ever question their judgment. The president explodes, roaring, "Can this federation not stand on its own 2 feet?" He then proposes pulling city troops and sending them to the hot zones. But a long-haired official shoots that down, arguing the cities need their defenders. Another board member immediately accuses him of just trying to protect his family's corporate assets. The blonde official cuts through the bickering and decides to slash the city defense force, and orders Zhao Chu dragged to the capital to be made an example of. The scene cuts to the Da City Defense Force headquarters, where an officer is telling the Yan sisters they're clear to leave, but warns they'll be subpoenaed as witnesses for the trial. She explains that they're pressing charges against the vicious culprit, but Yan Qian fires back, defending what Zhao Chu did. The officer stumbles over her words, insisting that killing is always wrong. Qian shoots back. Were his victims innocent citizens? She declares that those men, they were the real monsters. A new voice cuts in, agreeing they all deserve to die. It's the high-ranking commander Jiang. Yan Qian's head snaps up, shocked, but he follows it up by saying judgment is the system's job, not one man's. She immediately challenges him. Then why didn't you ever do anything? But all he offers is some vague talk about necessary sacrifices. So, she wonders, are they just supposed to sit back and endure the darkness? Her question clearly hits a nerve. The commander looks deeply troubled. Her knuckles turn white as she grips her wheelchair. So is it wrong to even fight back against evil? She screams, if that's true, then this whole world is a mistake. Her sister, Yan Zixi, who has clearly seen too much to feel that kind of fire anymore, just looks at her with weary resignation and says it's time to go home. Qian agrees. As they're leaving, Commander Jiang quietly wishes the young woman could walk again. His subordinate looks at him, confused, asking why he'd say that. Another official remarks that rage can be a powerful fuel as the camera pans to Yan Qian, who is desperately wishing she had that kind of power. But the long-haired man just scoffs. What good is rage to a cripple? The scene cuts to the sisters' quiet apartment, where Yan Zixi tells Qian to get some rest, promising she'll figure out a way to help Zhao Qiu. Bathed in sunlight, Qian Liu is a solitary figure in her quiet room, head bowed, lost in thought and trapped in her wheelchair. She makes a silent vow. Where the sun can't reach, she will become the light, and if the darkness wins anyway, then the sun itself is useless. With this, she pushes herself up. An unnatural power radiates from her as her bare feet press firmly against the floorboards. She takes one shaky, impossible step. Behind her, the wheelchair sits empty. From outside, her sister yells about the state of her room, a perfectly normal complaint on a perfectly abnormal day. But then she turns and freezes mid-sentence, staring in disbelief as Kian reaches a hand out, whispering her name. Kian screams at her to run. Inky, shadow-like tendrils erupt from her own body. Miles away, a commander is in the middle of a briefing with his top officers. He stops dead, his senses screaming that something is terribly wrong. A subordinate asks what he's looking at, but the commander already knows the feeling. It's the unmistakable aura of the great obscenity. His men immediately protest, arguing that Mask already annihilated that monster. Ignoring them, he smashes through a plate glass window, roaring orders for an immediate citywide evacuation. Down on the streets, life is bustling, completely oblivious. A news report on a nearby screen cheerfully recounts the capture of the kaiju culprits from just 3 days ago. A man wearing glasses notes that spring has come early, wondering why the roses are blooming so fast, their vines growing at a visibly unnatural rate. They're pulsing with a strange, ethereal energy. In a silent explosion of color, the entire bush bursts into full bloom, leaving the man utterly bewildered. From deep within the foliage, a monstrous bee emerges, landing on one of the grotesquely oversized flowers. Its razor-sharp leg punctures the stem. Instantly, it's absorbed into a swelling mass of petals. The roses continue to multiply under a rapidly darkening sky. As a nearby crosswalk light turns green, pedestrians begin to cross the street. A young man nudges his friend, telling him they can go, but his friend is suddenly frozen to the spot. He feels a terrifying presence, just as thorny vines rip through the skin of his face. His hand dissolves into a cloud of swirling petals. Another civilian simply explodes in a gruesome floral display. The air fills with drifting pink petals, and a woman catches one, calling it beautiful. Her sense of wonder twists into a blood-curdling scream as a massive pink sphere smashes into the street. It's a grotesque, pulsating mass of smiling, flowery faces. From this nightmare, a new monster rises, a blooming rose for a head. Just then, a professional hero makes a dramatic entrance. "Don't panic," he yells, and the civilians erupt in cheers, believing their savior has arrived. He powers up his colossal energy blade for a killing blow. His attack unleashes a massive explosion on the fleshy monstrosity. But another hero sees the infection spreading as a bystander recognizes the sickening green glow with abject horror. Is the great obscenity actually growing through the city itself? A field commander demands to know how so many demons appeared, but his superior's voice is grim. The radiation has mutated. Its prime directive to corrupt and destroy, however, remains unchanged. He touches down on a rooftop, giving them a new name: human flowers. He warns his squad. "These monsters evolve beyond our comprehension," he orders. "Contain this plague at all costs. It's hyper-infectious." His troops deploy immediately, but the infection is already swallowing the city whole. A civilian shrieks for help, his hand glowing an eerie green as the people around him begin to transform into flower-headed abominations. From his perch, the commander roars down at the chaos, his very mustache igniting with fiery energy. He unleashes a torrential pillar of flame. The inferno rages down the street, engulfing everything, including a hooded man, as a lone survivor sighs in relief. But it's premature. A tiny piece of glowing debris hits another man's face, and he screams as the floral infection devours him instantly. The commander watches. His ultimate attack failed to stop the plague. An aerial view reveals the horrifying truth. The city is being completely terraformed, overgrown by the alien blight. Massive vines choke the skyline, turning the urban landscape into a floral nightmare. "It's a green hell," Director Arthur whispers in shock. Thorny tendrils shatter a protective energy barrier, like it's made of sugar glass. "Hold your fire," Commander Jiang bellows, warning that even a single splinter is infectious. Director Arthur runs up, demanding answers, but all the commander can offer is, "This is a catastrophe." Arthur recognizes the putrid scent of the great obscenity as Jiang explains the monster's seeming immortality. But then he reveals a secret. Even immortal demons can be killed. You just have to eradicate the medium that resurrects them. Arthur explodes in pure rage at this revelation. The commander, confused, demands to know what he means. Arthur remembers Mask ordering the city officials to cleanse the radiation. They ignored the direct order. They embezzled the funds. And now, their corruption has doomed the entire city. Commander Jiang abruptly changes the subject, asking about the radiation spread. Arthur realizes with a jolt that Jiang plans to fight the monster himself. The commander can sense that the creature isn't at full strength. Not yet. He explains that they have to strike now, before it fully matures. "We either destroy it now," he declares, "or we will pay an infinitely higher price." Stunned by his resolve, Arthur can only agree to send him the energy data map for support. Miles away, the pristine capital city remains blissfully unaware. Breaking news flashes across every screen in the capital, announcing that city defense forces are being deployed to the front lines. The parliament's decision is official, but the broadcast is suddenly hijacked by an emergency report. A monster has appeared in Dawes City. The city is already being consumed by massive vines. Citizens watch the horror unfold on social media, frantically debating if their former hero, Mask, is going to show up and save them. An evacuee's post goes viral, shocking photos from the disaster zone, revealing the plant-like monsters stalking the streets. Panic erupts online as people finally understand the scale of this threat, learning that the monsters are a mutated version of the Great Obscenity. Then, a new post claims the city's commander has already killed it. The news celebrates Commander Zhang's unbelievable heroic stand. The whole world is watching, glued to a live feed, promising a front-row seat to the apocalypse. The camera pans across a city, completely swallowed by a monstrous, alien jungle. And there, at the epicenter, Commander Jiang stands alone against the horde. He's a lightning-fast blur, weaving through the pulsating vines, a streak of pure defiance in a world gone mad. But then, he skids to a dead stop. He senses a new presence. Perched atop a colossal rose, a mysterious woman watches him. Her vibe is totally otherworldly, but the commander just scoffs at her whole goddess act. He's seen this play before. Monsters cosplaying as gods to mess with humanity's head. "Sir, be careful," crackles a voice in his ear. Jiang's reply is ice cold. "I know." He squares up with the monster. She asks if he regrets dissing her. "Yeah, I do," he snarls, his fists already crackling with raw power. He unleashes an absolute torrent of blue lightning straight at her, but a giant rose instantly erupts to shield her from the onslaught. The attack still smashes through. It seemingly vaporizes her head, and on the news chopper, the anchors are losing their minds, hyping up the commander's insane power level. Jiang hovers over the ruined city, electricity arcing off his body, but a cold dread creeps in. Something isn't right. Sickly green tendrils snake back into place, reforming her head as she declares his attack was completely useless. Then, enormous vines lash out from the ground, swatting at the news helicopter like a fly. Qianlu stands fully restored, radiating an unholy power. A crown of thorns materializes on her head. Her eyes blaze with pure white light, and she smiles, completely unfazed by the assault. The chilling realization hits Jiang. She has high-speed regeneration, while the reporter is freaking out on air, unable to process that she's still alive. Commander Jiang unleashes another blast. It's an even more powerful barrage that swallows the monster in a storm of lightning, but she just emerges from the explosion, totally untouched and glowing green. She mocks his sunlight meant to burn away the dark. The commander is just floored, utterly shocked. His survival instincts scream, and he immediately rockets backward, sensing an unimaginable level of danger. A bead of sweat drips down his temple as the monster taunts his speed. He zips through the overgrown metropolis like a bullet, but his blood runs cold when he realizes she's even faster. This creature, Qian Liu, is suddenly right behind him, calling his power a pathetic joke. She ensnares him in thorny vines, sneering at his failure to save anyone. His energy streaks across the blighted skyline as the news crew watches the impossible fight unfold. And that's when it clicks for Jiang. She isn't actually fast. She's teleporting through the planet-wide network of plants. Back at HQ, an officer is screaming into the comms for him to fall back, warning him that she's immortal. As long as the human flowers survive, she can't be killed. A superior roars for them to deploy weapons capable of glassing the entire area. But on the ground, Commander Jiang knows his options have evaporated. Is escape even on the table anymore? He stands his ground with grim resolve, surrounded by the plague's corrupting energy, and calmly adjusts the collar of his uniform. His hand brushes against the medals he earned, and a determined smile crosses his face. The monster mocks what she sees as his surrender. "Look at the trapped little animal," she coos, but he just says, "No," as his hand ignites with blistering red power. His entire body crackles with a new, terrifying energy as he roars that this is him fulfilling his duty, right up until the very end. A colossal pillar of crimson energy erupts into the sky, detonating in an explosion that shakes the entire city. The news crew finally understands. The commander is using a fatal overload technique, but Director Arthur knows it's not suicide, it's a life force gambit. He screams for Jiang to stop. Qian Liu watches, noting his power is now equal to a level 8, but it's literally tearing his body apart from the inside. "Am I wrong?" she asks, with a smug smile. Commander Jiang ignores her, his face a twisted mask of pure, unadulterated rage. He unleashes a devastating blast of crimson energy. She scoffs that it's useless, since she can teleport instantly. But he's already there, his fist crackling like a miniature sun. She's stunned, realizing his attack moved faster than her own thoughts, and he drives his bloodied fist forward with every last ounce of his being. He reveals the crimson lightning is burning away, the deep-rooted infection, and the news crew erupts in cheers, thinking he just scored a one-punch knockout. But Director Arthur slams his console, screaming that the monster isn't dead. The energy readings show her power is actually skyrocketing. He tells his frantic team this isn't the creature they've been fighting, An analyst asks him to clarify, and Arthur tells them the ancient legend of Antaeus, who was invincible as long as he touched the earth. He reveals this monster is the same. She's siphoning power from every single infected person, making her not one being, but 10,000. The control room staff can barely comprehend it. As Arthur looks on in dawning horror, an operator shouts that her energy signature is hitting the absolute highest threat level. And as Jiang stands alone, burning himself out, they all realize Daw City is finished. The monster, Qian Lu, seems genuinely impressed by his power. As the commander flashes back to his own dreams of being a hero, she asks him, "Why didn't you ever use this power to save the innocent?" Her question is echoed by the giant rose monsters, a haunting chorus of why rising from the floral horde. Elsewhere, a protective barrier finally shatters, and a soldier screams that he can't hold it any longer. A massive rose monster smashes right through their defenses. Then, the plant creatures suddenly begin to retreat. The surviving soldiers think they're safe for now, but one of them knows this fight is far from over. He looks up in absolute horror at something new taking shape, a massive green entity gathering an insane amount of energy right above the city. The emerald glow intensifies, collapsing into a blinding flash of pure energy. From within, a face emerges, her eyes bursting open, blazing with raw power. Reborn from the cataclysm, Yan Kailu poses her question again to the commander, who can only curse this broken world for his own failure to act. He unleashes another furious wave of crimson lightning, declaring that he's no stranger to death. He then lunges forward, roaring that he's no stranger to being alive either. And in a flash, his hand punches straight through her chest. He shoves his attack deeper, right into her core, as a news broadcast flashes across the screen, hailing his incredible win. On a train across the city, civilians are electric, inspired by the commander's heroic sacrifice. But back on the battlefield, Yan Kailu's body explodes with crimson power. She scoffs that just being alive is meaningless, as Commander Jiang, his form now withered and aged from the strain, charges one last time. He is instantly swallowed by colossal green vines that erupt from the ground, constricting around his weakening frame. She holds a miniature version of him in her palm, sneering at him to rot in hell, but his eyes are still filled with an unbreakable will. His entire body shatters into a shower of pink petals, drifting silently over the ruined, overgrown city. Yang Kailu just watches, dismissing his final act as useless as throwing an egg at a stone. Back at headquarters, the top brass witness the final, grim moments unfold. A grim-faced superior confirms the worst. Jiang's energy signature has vanished completely. On the train, the cheers have died in their throats. They stare at the broadcast in total shock, as a mother instinctively shields her daughter's eyes from the brutal truth. Other passengers start to panic, wondering if the city is totally doomed. Someone asks if Mask will come save them, but another man crushes their hope, reminding them their greatest hero resigned 1 month ago. The realization hits them like a truck. There is no one left. A heavy, terrified silence suffocates the entire train car as the live feed continues to roll. Online, the comment sections are exploding as people argue over the city's inevitable fate. Elsewhere, inside a high-security prison, emergency alarms are screaming. A natural disaster-level monster has been confirmed, and an immediate evacuation is ordered. We see a hand tighten into a white-knuckled fist, trembling with disgust at the news. It's the same blonde official from before, and he's absolutely raging at this display of cowardice, condemning them for forgetting all the sacrifices that came before. Another official mutters that maybe they shouldn't have been so ruthless with Mask, earning him a death glare from the blonde chairman. He slams his fist on the table inside the parliament chamber, while a subordinate proposes their absolute last resort for Daw City. The others eagerly latch onto the idea of using nuclear weapons, promising him the people will praise his decisiveness. The chairman looks on, sickened by their callous disregard for life, when an aide bursts in with an urgent report straight from the city. An officer on the comms clarifies that the new arrival is humanoid, then he recoils in absolute terror. He screams into the mic, asking if it's another monster. The scene cuts hard to the City Defense Force prison, where a gaping hole has been ripped through the roof by some kind of dark energy. A guard lies on the floor, paralyzed by pure fear, as a lone figure emerges from the smoke and rubble. Inside, other guards discover the prisoner's cell is completely empty. A terrified officer stammers the unthinkable. He has escaped. Back in the vine-choked streets of Daw City, a soldier's voice cracks over the radio, confirming that Commander Jiang is gone. Panic erupts as the monstrous plants begin to writhe and stir once more. The remaining troops completely lose their nerve, breaking formation and fleeing for their lives. An officer screams for them to hold the line, while one brave soldier charges forward, ready to die fighting. He is immediately snagged by a swarm of thorny vines, and his subordinate can only watch in horror. The subordinate powers up his own attack, vowing to fight with his captain. He's instantly swarmed by a blur of dark energy, but the attack shreds the vines to pieces instead. He rushes to his fallen captain's side, looking up in disbelief, realizing they have just been saved. As the news crew argues whether to bail or risk it for a better angle, the cameraman yells for them to wait. He screams into his headset that support has finally made it. Onlookers who were just mourning Jiang's sacrifice watch their screens as a new fighter rips and tears through the plant monsters. They see a terrifying, armored warrior and can only ask if this is their new hero. Meanwhile, Yan Kailu speaks of a primal forest nature, inviting everyone to merge with her into a world without pain. She promises a beautiful reality, free of all suffering, explaining that she is no longer an individual, but a hive mind, a collective consciousness of every being she has absorbed. She smiles, promising that this new family of hers will soon expand. But suddenly, her connection to her network shatters. She realizes a massive number of her flowers have just been wiped from existence. She lets out a scream of pure fury, demanding to know who dares to defy her. Down below, the armored warrior stands amidst the carnage, recognizing the monster as someone he once knew. He unleashes another devastating barrage of attacks, carving a bloody path through the overgrown cityscape. Yan Kailu is stunned. He's somehow immune to her assimilation, dodging her grasp with impossible speed. Yan Kailu shrieks for him to get off her, but the Crimson Warrior is a blur of motion, his blade slicing deep into her massive green hand. A flash of red energy tears through the sky as he lands on her other arm. Relentless, he fights his way up to her shoulder, but she spawns a fresh wave of defenders, a horde of smaller rose monsters that charge right at him. One of them begins to glow with a sick, volatile energy, detonating in a blinding green explosion. The armored fighter nimbly dodges the blast, his masked face showing no trace of fear. He parries another energy bomb with his blade, weaving through a literal storm of explosions. A news reporter marvels at his inhuman speed as a crowd watches the battle unfold on a public screen. One analyst wonders aloud if this is a monster or a human, analyzing his high-risk, death-defying combat style. The analyst is floored. This thing's fighting prowess is beyond even the most elite pros, sparking a chilling fear of a future where monsters are this smart. The Crimson Warrior bolts up the creature's spine, and then, out of nowhere, unfurls enormous, glowing wings, leaving the crowd completely stunned by his sudden liftoff. But the analyst instantly sees the genius gambit. It was all a setup for the warrior to unleash a ferocious attack from above, a torrent of dark energy that completely engulfs Qian Liu's head. On the news broadcast, the reporter erupts in cheers, convinced the newcomer's attack was a success. But miles away, the humanoid flowers start to twitch back to life. Then, in perfect, unnerving unison, they all go rigid, forcing the reporter to question if the battle was actually won at all. A single rose creature pivots its head, its voice a chilling whisper. "Who are you?" The question is immediately echoed by the entire floral army. As their voices resonate across the devastated city, Kylie repeats the question herself, her face cloaked in a blinding light. And she isn't talking to the humans. She's speaking to the monstrous new arrival. She recognizes a fellow creature of power and offers a partnership to reshape this corrupt world. She presents him with the core of the great obscenity, an unbelievably tempting prize he seems to be seriously considering as she pitches her revolutionary cause. His mind flashes to a forgotten promise, a vow to escape toward the mountains, even as the monsters around him chant their desire to shatter the world. Intent on purging the darkness, Kylie levitates over her territory, a chilling monarch reigning over a green hell. The psychic broadcast hits the reporter like a physical blow, making him clutch his chest as the horrifying realization dawns. The two monsters have a history. The armored warrior stays perfectly still, a silent statue facing her from across the ruins, as she questions if his sole purpose is to end her rampage. In a flash, her head detonates in a geyser of green energy as he blitzes forward in a crimson streak, but her body is already knitting itself back together. Snapping him up in a cage of razor-sharp vines, Kylie's headless form overpowers the newcomer, her newly formed eyes glowing as she lets out a piercing scream. Entangling mask in her thorny appendages, she shoves his smaller, spider-like frame into her mouth and clamps down her jaw, intent on grinding him to dust. But a violent eruption of dark energy blows her head apart from the inside. Mask bursts free, revealing he was only searching for her real body all along. He's figured it out. Her core isn't in her brain. He rockets directly toward her back and unleashes a brutal, crisscrossing slash. His blades carve deep into the city's vine network, but the severed ends start to pulse with an ominous power before a colossal explosion erupts from her back. Mask is engulfed in a vortex of razor-thin vines that slice through the air at impossible speeds, and the entire zone is bleached by a blinding green light. As a new, horrifying face takes shape within the energy storm, the full force of the blast hammers into Mask, cracking his armor wide open. The green energy begins to literally shred his body apart. He's being dismantled by the vicious onslaught, but his own blades flash in defiance, hacking back at the vines. Within the chaotic mass of tendrils, a huge, throbbing core is exposed. Through his fractured helmet, Mask knows, this is it, he's found the heart. He hefts his sword for the finishing strike, just as an avatar of Kylie materializes to defend her very essence. Kylie's phantom form glares back, defiant to the end, as Mask's blade plunges straight into her core. The shock on her face is real. She never thought he'd breach her final defense. The massive vines around them begin to writhe and constrict, sealing Mask inside the beast's very heart, where he once again confronts her spectral image. He's trying to figure out his next move, glaring at her through his busted helmet, but she just offers him a serene, chilling smile. "You've already killed me," she says. At the final act of will, a titanic shape looms over the city, and the news crew is plunged into absolute despair. Just as the cameraman accepts that Doss City is doomed, he spots something new in the sky as a dark shadow creeps across the overgrown wreckage. A fiery streak plummets from the heavens, a missile screaming toward its target. The reporter's voice cracks with raw terror. Then the realization hits him. It's a nuclear bomb. Back at headquarters, the Federation's ultimate contingency plan is officially in motion. The chairman is visibly broken, buckling under the sheer gravity of his command. Down below, Kylie simply remarks on humanity's bottomless cruelty, vowing to give the world one final show before she dies. Mask's eye narrows with grim resolve as he stares into the swirling abyss of her being. A brilliant green light radiates from her core as her vine-like body lifts into the sky, unleashing a swarm of smaller flower creatures upon the city below. The monstrous vines twist and churn violently as Kylie ascends upon a gigantic column of pure green energy. She fashions a massive, thorny arm from her transformed body, which quickly morphs into a heavily muscled limb made of pure plant tissue. Her entire form culminates into a single, colossal, world-ending tree, just as the government's weapon of last resort arrives. A searing flash of fire consumes the sky. It floods the entire city in a tidal wave of pure light. The world goes stark white with incredible heat, as phantom-like shapes seem to rise from the detonation. The glare is too intense to make anything out, but in the microsecond before the shockwave hits, Mask is impaled by 1,000 thorns from every angle. His eyes fly open, caught in her final, deadly trap. The monstrous plant seals him inside a massive bud, and then the nuclear warhead detonates directly above Doss City. The shockwave obliterates buildings and scours the streets, while a handful of survivors are saved only by a desperate, last-second energy shield. A man throws his body over a woman to shield her from the fallout. They emerge together into the smoldering, apocalyptic wasteland. She gazes at the utter ruin and asks, "Did we win?" The great tree is now a blazing torch, its crown completely vaporized by the blast. In the command center, a technician confirms the energy signature has vanished. Director Arthur lets out a slow breath. The catastrophe has been neutralized. A high-ranking official clenches his fist in triumph, declaring that the city is now secure. Crashing down through the city's wreckage, Mask slams into the ground. A flash of metals, of past glory, flickers through his mind as officials elsewhere begin to ask, is the nightmare finally over? But then, the colossal plant beast cracks open, exploding into a blizzard of pink petals. A serene, almost beautiful shower of blossoms begins to fall, blanketing the war-torn city. The blossoms drape the choked streets in an eerie silence. Hesitant and scared, survivors begin to emerge, stepping out into a world transformed. A man screams at a woman not to touch the falling petals, convinced they're poison. She completely ignores him, reaching out with an open hand, and the man is left absolutely speechless when she remains completely unharmed. Across the city, Mask cradles Kainyu's human form in his arms, a single, quiet moment found within the sprawling, silent ruins. Her eyes slowly open, a new clarity in them. She whispers that she never knew spring could be this beautiful, her hand reaching up toward the drifting petals. The moment her fingers touch one, her body erupts in a blinding glow, dissolving into particles of light. Mask is left sitting alone, and a pulsating green heart materializes in his hand. He recognizes it instantly. It's the core of the great obscenity, but it's also Yun Qianliu's heart. A system prompt flashes in his vision, ordering him to equip it. Without a second's thought, he dismisses the item. A pillar of pixelated light erupts from the ground where he sat, just as the rest of the world starts celebrating the end of the Dahai City nightmare. But in the deceptively quiet streets, the rose monsters begin to stir again, and something totally bizarre is happening to what's left of Kainyu's massive avatar. The crowds watching the live feeds are stunned into absolute silence. Then, a few of them realize the gut-wrenching truth. Those flowers, the ones Mask just annihilated, they were human beings. Suddenly, every screen goes dead. The internet is scrubbed, every discussion, every video clip, erased. Deep inside Federation headquarters, a shadow meeting is underway. A top official leans in, warning the chairman, "We can't contain this." The news puts the blonde chairman in a tight spot. The official then adds, his voice cold as steel, that 1,000 deaths is just the beginning. Another member cuts in with a chillingly simple solution. We use the nukes and pin the whole thing on Mask. Another official objects, demanding to know how they can possibly blame Mask for this. But the man just smirks. His absence is exactly why he's to blame. He claims Mask took all the support the people gave him and then just abandoned them, making this entire catastrophe land squarely on his shoulders. After the others leave, it's just the two of them. The subordinate tells the chairman that he'll handle all the messy details. But the chairman reveals his true game. This isn't about blame, it's about power. He demands an update on the Morning Sun plan, a project that's been accelerating since a recent breakthrough. His subordinate grins, declaring that fusing humans with monsters is now totally achievable. Their logic is twisted. If Mask saved humanity, they'll be the ones to elevate it. The scene flashes back to the Dark Ages, a world drowning in chaos as monsters from hidden realms swarm the globe, tearing civilization to shreds. A voiceover kicks in, explaining how Mask's arrival changed everything. He created a new front line, deep in some lush, remote dimension, where soldiers now stand guard before a shimmering, unstable portal. A squad is nervously debating who's going to be the one to break some bad news to the captain, each one trying to pawn the awful task off on someone else. Without warning, the portal erupts in a brilliant blue flash. The men immediately snap to attention as a figure emerges. A single boot plants itself firmly on the grass. One of the soldiers mutters in disbelief at how fast the mission was cleared. A white-haired warrior emerges, a living legend they call the Genius. Her gaze, sharp and unwavering behind her mask, sweeps over her team. "Why the long faces?" she asks. A soldier hesitantly speaks up, reporting a massive incident into High City. She asks if the monster has been eliminated. The soldier then blurts out the devastating news. Her father sacrificed himself to stop it. She shows zero emotion, not a single flinch. She just turns and starts walking toward the next mission, leaving her stunned team to scramble after her into the woods. They murmur to each other, unnerved by her ice-cold reaction. But she cuts them off with a chilling threat that shuts them up instantly. This squad lives on the front lines, diving into one secret realm after another. The soldier asks if she needs backup for the next one. She turns, and her glare is so cold it could freeze fire. "Are you doubting me?" she snarls. The soldier immediately panics, stammering apologies, completely terrified of her wrath. She says nothing more, simply turning and stalking towards the next portal by herself. One of the soldiers stares after her into the swirling blue portal, while the others whisper about their captain's terrifying presence, calling her an emotionless monster, incapable of feeling pain. Meanwhile, deep inside a dark, watery cavern, the lone, white-haired warrior pushes forward, her spear alive with crackling dark energy. Her eyes dart around, scanning the oppressive darkness. She's completely focused, every sense on high alert. That's when she stumbles upon a heap of monster corpses and wonders if another squad got here first. But as she inspects the bodies, she notices all the wounds are from a single weapon. This wasn't a team. It was one other person, fighting alone. Suddenly, a clang echoes from deeper within the cave. She whips her spear into a ready stance, her expression hardening. She's prepared for whatever's coming. A shark-like monster lunges out of the darkness, revealing the other fighter locked in a desperate battle against an entire horde. She's immediately struck by his incredible skill. She can see he's already seriously injured, but he's somehow holding his own through sheer, masterful technique. Recognizing her moment, she decides to make her move. She rockets into the fight with blinding speed, unleashing a devastating arc of her spear that punches clean through a monster's head. She becomes a spinning vortex of purple light, tearing through the horde and slicing down another beast with a single, fluid strike. The masked warrior slices through a hulking monster, now completely swarmed by enemies, as the lone fighter watches from the cavern floor. She lands lightly, turning to the stranger on the ground. "Who are you?" she demands, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. But before he can even answer, the man crumples to the floor, out cold. She notices a strange mark blooming on his face and just scoffs, dismissing him as nothing more than another burden. Just when she thought it was over, the water explodes. A fresh wave of shark-like monstrosities surges from the depths. A frustrated sigh escapes her lips. Seriously, another wave? She grips her spear, its violet energy crackling with raw power. Her expression hardens, her resolve solidifying into cold steel. An image flashes through her mind, the unwavering gaze of her commander. Her eyes ignite with pure fury. A cataclysmic wave of violent energy erupts from her, and the entire cavern is engulfed in a storm of purple lightning. Meanwhile, outside the secret realm, her squad is on edge. They know their captain is spiraling over Zhao's fate, and they whisper about her trademark reckless bravery, a fire she inherited straight from her father. Without warning, the portal roars to life, signaling her return. She emerges, hauling the unconscious stranger over her shoulder. Her team just stares, totally bewildered. Back at the frontline military base, life is a relentless grind, a non-stop war for survival. This is a place where even superhumans need medics to patch them up. And the guy she just dragged out of that hellscape, he's laid out on a medical bed. His vitals are critical. A medic explains that by all accounts, his injuries should have been fatal, yet his body is regenerating at an unbelievable speed. The doctor identifies the warrior's wounds as radiation burns and offers a special treatment room, but the white-haired captain immediately shuts that down. She orders him brought back to her. At that moment, an older man enters the room, addressed respectfully as Teacher and Commander Liang. They're all gathered inside the command post for Army Camp 3. A news report flickers on a screen, announcing a government rescue operation in Doss City, spinning the whole catastrophe into a victory for the Federation. The broadcast pays tribute to the soldiers, the ones who made the ultimate sacrifice, lingering on the portrait of a high-ranking officer. Commander Liang turns to the woman and confirms her father died with honor. She lowers her gaze, absorbing the crushing news. He then adds that he's already declined a media interview request for her. He tells her to stop blaming her father for the choices he made, explaining that her anger was just a war she was waging against herself. And with that, the commander leaves her, alone with the unconscious warrior. As he's walking away, he tells her that if she wants to learn about fighting, she should ask the boy. He's fascinated by anyone capable of wielding that particular sword. The warrior lies still in bed, his weapon resting right beside him. She can hear the commander's faint coughing fade down the hall as her eyes drift back to the mysterious man in the bed. She decides she'll wait for him to wake up, and just like that, his eyes snap open, wide with a feral, defensive shock. The woman is frozen for a split second, caught off guard by his sudden revival. His hand shoots for his sword, and instantly, she's braced for a throwdown. But he just looks back at her, his expression evening out. He says he's okay and asks where he is. She confirms that she's the one who pulled him out, introducing herself as Jiang Ling. He returns the favor, giving his name as Xiaoqiu. Suddenly, the news report kicks back on, blaring the Federation's official story, pinning all the blame on Mask for abandoning his post. A smirk plays on Jiang Ling's lips. She notes how desperate they sound, and how convenient it is to use Mask as their personal scapegoat. Then she warns Xiaoqiu not to start any drama. She threatens to snap his bones if he steps out of line, but he just calmly replies that she couldn't take him. His sheer confidence seems to entertain her, and with that, she heads out to clear the next secret realm. Outside, her squad bombards her with questions about the new guy, wondering if the name Xiaoqiu rings any bells. They can feel the barely suppressed rage simmering under their captain's cool exterior. Just then, Xiaoqiu strolls out of the room, sword in hand. The soldiers intercept him, demanding to know where he's going. They're stunned when he announces he's headed for the secret realm. He clutches at his chest. He can feel the power of the great obscenity's core inside him. A soldier reminds him he needs a squad to enter, but another one just says to let the man cook. They could definitely use the firepower, but the Supreme Commander himself materializes in the hallway. A soldier protests, saying this is a major rule violation, but the commander simply states his authority is final. His men instantly clam up, frozen by his terrifying presence. The young warrior observes the entire power play, weapon in hand, as the commander gives him a look that says he knows everything. Meanwhile, the white-haired captain is waiting outside when two of her subordinates run to catch up. They start complaining about how arrogant and reckless the new guy is, but she's on a completely different wavelength, suggesting that maybe he has his own secret agenda. Her men question if he's really all that, while one of them recounts the captain's own legendary track record. Elsewhere, the warrior is walking with a new team. As they cross a desolate landscape, one of them asks if he's got some secret connection to the commander. He shoots the idea down. This prompts them to start hyping up their leader, calling him a living legend. They explain that the commander is blind but possesses superhuman senses, and that he once battled side by side with the hero known as Mask. He was a founding member of the original Repelling Monsters army. A flashback hits us. Our boy is Mask himself. He was the one who led humanity against the endless tides of beasts, fighting a brutal war just to carve out a single safe zone. The veterans of that conflict are the ones who built the front lines that exist today. Back in the present, Mask stands before a new portal. The soldiers with him swear they'll follow him into the jaws of hell. The dark-haired warrior asks if they're coming to help, but then immediately rejects them, saying he's going solo. He strides toward the swirling blue vortex alone, admitting to himself that he feels more at home in the chaos of the secret realms. A dark aura begins to bleed from his body. A monstrous wolf materializes from the shadows with a snarl. An entire pack lunges for him, only to be met by Mask, who has unleashed his true monster form. He knows his body is still wrecked from the nuke, which gives him only 3 minutes in this state. But 3 minutes is an eternity for him. He becomes a phantom, a blur of crimson and black that dives straight into the charging horde. In a blink, the beasts are ripped to shreds. The forest floor is a graveyard, littered with the bodies of the entire fallen pack. Suddenly, an unearthly emerald light erupts from every corpse as they dematerialize, dissolving into a shimmering swarm of pure life essence. In moments, every last body has vanished into a swirling vortex of energy, with Mask as the solitary figure left standing in the eerie aftermath. This torrent of power funnels directly into him, visibly sealing his wounds, while just beyond the chaos, the soldiers have already written him off, certain he could never have survived. They're still joking that he's probably hiding by the entrance, when the portal suddenly explodes in a flash of light. Out steps Zhao Qiu, without a single scratch on him. The two guards are left completely speechless by his speed. They stammer, asking if he actually took down the realm's boss, and he just hits them with a simple yes. A soldier inspects the boss drops, his eyes widening when he realizes Zhao Qiu blitzed the entire realm in just 17 minutes. A speed run that shatters the record of their own legendary captain. But Zhao Qiu is already laser-focused on the next challenge, stepping up to another shimmering portal without a second thought. He tears through realm after realm with zero rest, clearing them at a pace that seems utterly impossible. Meanwhile, another squad shows up to a realm he just left, only to find the portal dead and the loot completely cleaned out. They realize this is the fourth, maybe fifth, empty realm they've stumbled upon today. They start to suspect it's the same team that rolled out of camp with Zhao Qiu. One soldier gets heated, assuming a rival camp is poaching their resources. But the white-haired captain just looks bored, though a flicker of annoyance crosses her face. Back at Army Camp N3, teams are cashing in their rewards when Zhao Qiu's crew strolls right past the captain's squad. She overhears the clerk behind the counter, absolutely losing his mind. 17 realms. In a single day, the official confirms the energy signatures are gone, but he nervously asks for some kind of proof for this unbelievable accomplishment. In response, they just dump a mountain of loot onto his desk. All of it, priceless materials stripped from the realm bosses. The clerk stammers that not even the legendary Captain Jiang Ling could pull this off, but the soldier proudly points to Zhao Qiu as the one who made it happen. Seeing their insane power level, the official offers them a brand new, high-risk mission, and Zhao Qiu accepts the high-rank quest without a moment's hesitation. One of his guys starts boasting that Zhao Qiu is on another level, even stronger than Captain Jiang. The clerk frantically tries to shut him up, signaling him to look over his shoulder. The man's blood runs cold as he spots Jiang Ling's entire team staring him down. He immediately starts backtracking. One of her lieutenants holds up a list, realizing with shock that Zhao Qiu cleared every single realm they were assigned. Jiang Ling locks eyes with him. "You did all this by yourself?" He just replies, "Yes." Zhao Qiu thinks to himself how this woman can really hold a grudge. Refusing to be one-upped, she immediately accepts a high-rank mission that nobody else would dare touch. Her team marches out right behind her, leaving Zhao Qiu's squad at the counter. One of his soldiers grins, telling him he just awakened the captain's ultra-competitive side. Zhao Qiu glances at the mission details, and it all starts to make sense why he was thrown onto the front lines. He's hit with a memory of a critical moment from his past life, a moment involving the great obscenity, when a blonde-haired soldier from Jiang's team gives him a look of sudden, dawning recognition. He studies the man's face, the sword hanging at his side, and it finally clicks. He knows exactly where he's seen this guy before. Cut to the Army City N3 Command Center. That same soldier is reporting to the Supreme Commander, connecting Zhao Qiu to a bloody massacre in Daf City. He stands at attention, 100% certain of his claim. The commander doubts him, but the soldier insists that the sword and his appearance are a perfect match for the reports. He spins a theory that Zhao Qiu must have escaped from prison during the chaos that engulfed the city, as unbelievable as that sounds. He is absolutely positive it's the same man. The commander admits the logic holds up and schedules an investigation for the next day. The soldier smirks, already dreaming about the massive reward he'll get for bagging a wanted criminal. Elsewhere, a team stands before a churning blue portal in an open field. Jiang Ling's squad is practically begging to join her on this incredibly dangerous mission. She scoffs at them, knowing they're only freaking out because this same realm has already swallowed 2 other teams whole. Jiang Ling leads the way into the mission zone, telling the combined squads to get a move on. She warns Zhao Qiu's men to stay out of her rivalry with their leader. He just watches her, completely unfazed. The sky above them is peaceful and clear, but a massive, swirling portal looms ahead. Zhao Qiu decides to go in first, and the gateway vanishes the moment he steps through. The rest of the soldiers file into a dark, cramped tunnel, as one of them uses their ability to scan the surroundings. He confirms the air is safe to breathe, but his teammates are on edge, staring down the long, ominous corridor, worried about being cornered by whatever monsters lurk inside. The entire group stands on high alert, peering into the suffocating darkness, when countless red eyes suddenly ignite from within the shadows. A soldier panics at the sheer number of creatures, but Jiangling steps forward, her spear already crackling with immense power. A horde of monstrous crocodiles charges straight at them. She tightens her grip on her weapon and unleashes a torrent of energy. A massive beam of purple lightning erupts from her spear, tearing through the narrow corridor. The entire tunnel is consumed by a violent, purple incandescence. When the light fades, only wisps of energy remain. A soldier is floored by her power, all those monsters, wiped out in a single attack. But she just scoffs, claiming the narrow tunnel made it too easy. A scarred soldier dismisses the kill count as totally meaningless. The team ventures deeper into the long, dark tunnel. Her squadmates comment on the eerie silence, crediting their captain's overwhelming display of force. Suddenly, the whole group grinds to a halt, standing on full alert in the empty concrete passage. Jiangling knows something is off. They haven't found a trace of the two lost teams, but her men figure her attack probably just vaporized them. She asks, "Did anyone else hear that sound?" But her subordinates heard absolutely nothing. The entire squad tenses up, ready for a fight. A deep rumbling begins to echo from the darkness ahead, shaking the very ground under their feet. A colossal, red-eyed beast erupts from the shadows, its massive body completely blocking the entire passageway. The soldiers are freaking out, convinced they're about to get wiped. But Jiangling's gaze is pure ice as she questions their sudden breakdown. Her eyes narrow, analyzing the new enemy, and she realizes the creature is broadcasting an aura of pure terror. She scoffs at the cheap psychological trick, her spear crackling with volatile energy. All the while, the scarred soldier stands perfectly calm, his sword resting at his side. With a confident smirk, Jiangling unleashes a torrent of violet lightning that rips straight through the monster's skull. Her focus is absolute, her will totally untouched by the beast's psychic assault. She looks past the smoking corpse, directly at her team. Further down the hall, Zayu slams his massive blade into the floor, ripping it free as the stone itself cracks and splinters. A colossal beast erupts from the chasm below, already heavily wounded. Its one glowing eye glares with a final, hateful fury, but the creature is already dead on its feet. The rest of the squad is completely stunned by the ambush from below, realizing Xiao Qiu just saved all of their lives. A soldier stammers, asking how he possibly knew it was there. And even Jiangling has to admit that her attention was locked on the other enemy. Xiao Qiu calmly explains that he felt the tremors in the ground, but his teammate challenges him on how he could have been so accurate. Our boy simply claims the frequency was easy to single out, as the squad stares in awe at their two one-shot kills on two seriously powerful monsters. But Jiangling shatters the mood with some grim news. These were not this realm's bosses, because the exit portal still hasn't appeared. The tension skyrockets among her men as they wonder what they are really facing, their eyes fixed on the enormous corpse with a fresh wave of dread. Jiangling orders them to stick close as they advance, and her men apologize for slowing her down. She tells them not to sweat it and takes the lead, pushing deeper into the cavern as her team watches her go. Their faith in their captain is unbreakable. They soon come upon a massive, sealed door, understanding that the true boss is definitely waiting behind it. Jiangling makes an executive decision. Only she and Xiao Qiu will enter. The rest of her team cries out in protest. They urge her to be safe, promising that they will be waiting for her. Together, the two rivals begin to turn the massive valve, straining to open the impossibly heavy door. With a deafening, grinding groan, the gate begins to part, belching out a massive cloud of dust and steam. They step across the threshold into the suffocating darkness. Their silhouettes vanish into the boss's chamber, just before the heavy door slams shut behind them. Inside, they make their way through the vast, silent chamber when a heavy, clawed foot crashes down. Jiangling notes that, for its size, the footsteps are unnervingly light. As a reptilian, humanoid monster materializes from the shadows, she remembers a deadly rule. The more human a monster appears, the more lethal it is. This thing stares them down from across the long chamber, letting out a deafening roar as it gathers its staggering power. Jiangling feels the oppressive energy building, bracing for a brutal fight, and then she explodes forward in a streak of purple lightning. She soars high into the air, calling out the monster for its arrogance, her spear humming with highly concentrated energy. But the beast catches her spear with its bare hand, leaving Jiangling utterly stunned by its raw, unbelievable strength. This creature has her completely pinned. Its power is overwhelming as she struggles against the immense force. Thinking fast, she draws a futuristic sidearm, flipping upside down in midair to fire a shot right at its face. A massive blast of purple lightning erupts at point-blank range. The blast strikes the huge reptilian beast head-on. In that moment of distraction, Jiangling's spear drives through its skull, leaving its head smoking in defeat. Xiao Qiu watches her stand over the defeated monster and questions her reckless style, but she just says it's a necessary part of victory. She's genuinely surprised when he just agrees with her, and her opinion of him is obviously changing. That's when they discover a truly grotesque scene. A human soldier has been fused into a monster's body. She recognizes his face. It's Christian, a high-level professional whose entire team went missing in this dungeon. Jiang Ling stares in horror, wondering what kind of nightmarish curse has infected this realm. Just then, another horde of monsters swarms the hall, led by a snarling, two-headed abomination. Both warriors instantly leap into action. As Jiang Ling vaults into the air, gathering a massive charge of energy, she unleashes a raging storm of purple lightning down upon the horde. The blast tears through the darkness, chaining between the creatures and electrocuting them all in a massive chain reaction. But one monster manages to break through the chaos, lunging for her, and she expertly parries its razor-sharp claws with her spear. She counters with a powerful thrust that rips the beast in half. With a final, explosive burst of energy, she realizes how much stronger the transformed soldiers have become, but dismisses them as mindless puppets with no real intelligence. Jiang Ling glances back, sensing another threat. Xiao Qiu is a whirlwind of death, carving through the mutated soldiers, flawlessly dodging and weaving between their wild attacks. His blade is nothing but a blur of light and polished steel. His eyes are cold, completely focused on the battle, as he unleashes a furious storm of slashes on his foes. The floor is covered with the mangled remains of the monsters, and he confirms that these were the missing professional teams. But Jiang Ling feels like something is still terribly wrong. Xiao Qiu turns to her, sensing her agitation. Up ahead, two more crocodile-like beasts stand guard, flanking a series of strange, carved pillars. These monsters snarl, looking ready for a fight, but then they do something totally unexpected. They kneel down, bowing in worship before the central pillar. A sinister pink energy begins to pulse from the totems, glowing with a bizarre, overwhelming power, and Jiang Ling is physically staggered by the sudden, crushing pressure. Her chest seizes, breath catching in her throat. Whatever this dark ritual is, she's pulling the plug. Right now, she unleashes a furious blast of violet lightning, incinerating the two chanting monsters. But as the light fades, two glowing red eyes snap open in the pitch-black void. A command, unspoken yet absolute, floods the chamber, and a storm of dark energy rains down, completely annihilating a monster. He knows that power, the demon god of the void. Its attention is laser-focused on one person, him, an old, unwelcome acquaintance. Back on the surface, two portals shimmer into existence over a tranquil field. Xiao Qiu and Jiang Ling step through, mission accomplished, while their squad stares in disbelief at their insane speed. Her soldiers start asking about the boss fight, but Jiang Ling instantly cuts them off. She has to debrief the commander now. The squad is left completely baffled by her sudden, intense urgency. A voice cuts in, "That won't be necessary. I'm right here." Every head snaps around, stunned by his sudden arrival. The blonde soldier's eyes go wide. It's the supreme commander. He strides forward, flanked by a unit of heavily armed military police. One of the soldiers nervously asks what they're doing here. The commander dismisses them, saying it's not their problem. Then, he pivots, his gaze landing squarely on Zhao Qiu. "This is about you," and he addresses him by a different title, the murderer from Da City. The words hit like a physical blow, and the entire squad just freezes, completely shell-shocked by the accusation. Disbelief ripples through the squad. They remember that name from the news feeds. But the blonde soldier insists, absolutely certain it's him. Jiang Ling shoots her subordinate, a look that could kill. With zero emotion on his face, Zhao Qiu simply confirms the name. The blonde soldier cracks a smug grin, his suspicion validated. Our boy calmly asks, "So, are you arresting me?" The commander recites the official rulebook. Fugitives get sent to an atonement camp. But then, a pause. A ghost of a smile touches the commander's lips as he says federal law has zero jurisdiction in his military camp. His own team just stares, completely lost. He tells Zhao Qiu he's gone over the case file, and he completely understands the choice he made. In fact, the commander admits, in the same situation, he probably would have been even more ruthless. The commander praises him, declaring the world needs more guys like him, and for just a moment, a flash of Zhao Qiu's inner demon flickers across the screen. While the commander pulls Jiang Ling aside to talk in private, the squad gossips about what had their captain so stressed out. One soldier confesses he's way too scared to even approach Zhao Qiu. At the same time, Jiang Ling is giving the commander the full report on the monstrous altar she found. The commander's expression darkens. He tells her they were worshipping a monster god. The name alone sends a chill down Jiang Ling's spine. He explains that it's all connected to an entity known as the Source. Jiang Ling immediately demands to know why they haven't just obliterated this thing yet, and the commander hits her with a bombshell. The monster god isn't just from the realms, it is the source of them. He explains that these gods are basically living cataclysms, and the secret realms are literally born from their auras. She's horrified by the revelation that these entire dimensions are just a side effect of their immense power. But then he drops another fact. Humanity has taken one down before. The catch? Only one specific person is capable of the feat. Finding this altar means one thing. A god is waking up. And when it does, a tidal wave of monsters will crash against their defenses. We see a terrifying vision of the front lines about to be completely swamped by a sea of beasts. Jiang Ling's blood runs cold, remembering the brutal cost they paid the last time they fought something this big, back when the hero mask was still active. He gives her a new assignment: personally warn the other military camps. He tells her to use the travel time to decompress, warning her that she's on the verge of burning out. Jiang Ling opens her mouth to protest, but the commander cuts her off with one final order. She's to take Zhao Qiu with her. He also adds a new rule. From now on, Zhao Qiu has to cover his face to stay anonymous. As he says this, a deep rumble echoes across the endless desert. An absolute beast of an armored train, built for the front lines, carves its way through the sand. On board, Jiang Ling keeps her distance from the rest of the squad. One soldier asks a rookie what the deal is with their special ride. The new guy proudly explains that these armored trains don't need rails, they carve their own path. His squad mates just roll their eyes. They've heard this speech a dozen times. Another soldier points out they're nearing Camp M2 and questions why this message requires a personal visit. A sudden, high-pitched whine shrieks through the carriage, and the soldiers leap to their feet, instantly on high alert. One of them spots a vehicle racing parallel to the train, while one guy swings into the gunner's seat of a heavy turret. Another scoffs at the local camp's sloppiness for letting monsters spill out of an uncleared realm. Outside, a military jeep careens across the sand, an archer in the back, desperately trying to pick off their pursuers. He nails a three-headed beast, sending it tumbling, but an entire pack is hot on their heels. The archer curses the higher-ups for their incompetence, but his frustration turns to sheer terror when he reaches back and finds his quiver is empty. He's completely defenseless, holding a useless bow as a monster lunges for the final blow. Suddenly, a single, glowing projectile screams past his face. It obliterates the creature in a ball of flame. A soldier in the fleeing jeep spots something massive on the horizon, screaming for help into his radio. He manages to identify it as an armored train. But just as the words leave his mouth, a cannon fires from its side, and the shell erupts in a massive explosion right next to them. The force of the blast flings the jeep end over end through the air. As it tumbles, a colossal winged beast dives from the sky, its monstrous beak aiming to snatch them. The beast swoops in, snatching the tumbling jeep right out of the sky. But before it can escape, a single, precise shot pierces its skull, and the monster and its prey come crashing down into the sand. Crawling from the mangled wreckage, the dazed survivors slowly realize they've just been rescued. They look up to see the massive armored train bearing down on them like a land-based battleship. The train's side ramp drops while it's still at full throttle, and Zhao Qiu and Jiang Ling lead their team onto the sand without breaking stride. One of the survivors tries to shout a warning about the monster horde, but he just stops, his jaw hanging open. The newcomers are already plowing through a massive pack of monstrous wolves. He's just staring, unable to process their insane level of power. Jiang Ling erupts, becoming a walking storm of violet lightning. At the same time, Zhao Qiu moves like a phantom, a whirlwind of deadly steel that leaves only corpses in his wake. The soldier realizes it's not the squad. It's the two leaders who are the real unstoppable forces here. A monster's head evaporates in a searing blast of energy, and in an instant, the chaotic battlefield is plunged into silence. The survivors stumble forward, thanking the squad from Army Camp M3. One of the rescued soldiers, from a different unit, looks confused, explaining that while they all know Jiang Ling by her legendary reputation, he's never heard of anyone with Xiao Chu's insane power coming from their camp. Xiao Chu's squad mate awkwardly tries to stammer out an explanation before another one cuts in, proudly introducing their new transfer, Xiao Chu. The rescued soldiers are hyped, predicting he's about to become just as famous. This whole scene reveals they were just saved from a full-blown monster horde, and the soldier they rescued blames the entire attack on failing realm seals. He confirms Jiang Ling's fears. Monsters are popping up everywhere. A chilling thought crosses her mind. Is this the prelude to a massive, coordinated invasion? She barks an order to make for Army Camp M2. Immediately. This place is a colossal, fortified bastion planted in the middle of a desolate desert. High up on the walls, two guards are on watch, scanning the endless wasteland. They're complaining about the sheer number of new secret realms and how overworked they are. Suddenly, one of them spots something through his scope, an armored train, barreling in from another camp. A flag bearer signals for the train to stop, for a standard inspection, but his face suddenly contorts in absolute terror. A gigantic object screams down from the sky, slamming into the ground with world-shaking force. This bizarre, pillar-like craft is now embedded deep in the earth. As soldiers scramble toward the impact zone, a hatch at the top grinds open, revealing a pitch-black, menacing hole. A soldier's body is unceremoniously tossed out, landing with a sickening thud at their feet. The soldiers immediately recognize the dead man as a high-level professional, just as a monstrous leg emerges from the strange ship. From that dark opening, a horrifying shriek echoes, as shadowy, winged silhouettes begin to unfold. A biblical swarm of giant insectoid monsters erupts, completely overwhelming the unprepared soldiers in a heartbeat. One soldier screams in defiance, opening fire, but his bullets might as well be spitballs against the relentless tide. This nightmarish swarm descends on the entire base, transforming the camp into a raging inferno. A colossal insectoid creature watches the carnage from above, the flames dancing in its cold, dead eyes. Back on the train, they're still blazing through the desert, when a soldier nervously asks Jiangling what the chances of an attack are. She scoffs at the idea, completely confident in their commander's overwhelming strength, but has to admit that even a top-tier pro would be completely swallowed by a sea of monsters. Suddenly, her eyes fly open in alarm as she spots a column of smoke, clawing its way into the sky on the horizon. The whole squad sprints to the window, their hearts sinking as they recognize Army Camp M2. A garbled, frantic distress call crackles over the comms, a voice screaming for backup, reporting a major breach. Then, a soldier delivers the soul-crushing news. The camp has been overrun. Outside, the fortress walls are engulfed in fire, rocked by a chain of cataclysmic explosions. The team is frozen in shocked silence. Jiang Ling's worst fear just became a reality. She gives a chillingly calm order. They are not changing their destination. A soldier argues back, reminding her that Camp M2 is already gone. She clarifies their mission. They aren't going in to retake the camp. They're going in to save any survivors and figure out what the hell happened. Nearby, a soldier smashes his fist against the wall, cursing the leadership and wishing the legendary hero, Mask, was still around. Another one agrees, saying it's like the monsters just knew he was gone. A heavy, suffocating silence falls over the entire squad. A bald soldier tries to lighten the mood, pointing out how Xiao Chu's mask and build are a dead ringer for the legendary hero. The others start murmuring, agreeing, joking that he might be the real deal, working undercover. He throws an arm around our MC, asking if he's actually Mask. Xiao Chu just looks him dead in the eye and says, without a hint of irony, "I am Mask." His squad is left absolutely speechless, their jaws on the floor, until the soldier who asked excitedly begs for an autograph, for his brothers. But Jiang Ling cuts him off, her voice sharp, challenging Xiao Qiu to actually live up to that legendary name. She turns her gaze back out the train's window, spotting a massive inferno blazing across the desert floor. The sky is thick, with a swarm of giant, insect-like monsters, and she wonders if this is the force that leveled the entire camp. A desperate cry for help cuts through the air from the desert below. A small squad of survivors is sprinting for their lives. The grotesque insects are closing in on them, fast, when brilliant streaks of purple lightning rip through their ranks from above. Jiang Ling has already launched herself into the fray, her spear practically humming with raw power. A bolt of violent purple lightning vaporizes a giant bug, the energy arcing through the massive swarm and detonating in a blinding, devastating explosion of light. The charred, smoking remains of the creatures rain from the sky, littering the dunes with smoldering husks. But on the horizon, an even larger, more terrifying swarm is gathering. Jiang Ling and her team now stand before the survivors they just saved. A soldier thanks her for the clutch save as she demands to know what happened at Army Camp M2. He delivers the grim news. The camp is totally lost. He describes a powerful, humanoid insect that slaughtered their commander in a single, brutal strike. The man begs her not to go any further, insisting that heading for the camp is a straight-up suicide mission. Jiang Ling, her face now concealed behind her own mask, says nothing. Then, in a shocking move, she whips her spear around and aims it directly at the soldier she just rescued. Her own squad is stunned by her sudden hostility. She reveals her gut feeling. They're not soldiers, they're convicts from the atonement camp. The so-called survivors freeze, their faces a mask of pure shock and terror. The bearded man desperately denies it, pleading that in this chaos, all that matters is staying alive. But Jiang Ling isn't buying it. She gestures to their amateurish grip on their rifles, pointing out they were clearly looted from dead soldiers. Then, she gestures to a fresh wound on his ear. Flaunting the gear they stripped from fallen soldiers, the two ringleader convicts lunge forward. In a desperate blitz, Jiang Ling's spear ignites with lethal purple energy, and in one blinding arc of light, she annihilates them both. The last convict is frozen solid, staring in pure terror as she looms over his fallen crew. One of the mystery soldiers tries to grab the civilians as human shields, but he's stunned when they all suddenly drop to the floor. In a blur of motion, his head is separated from his shoulders, his body crumpling to the dirt, right next to a very familiar spear. It clicks for Jiang Ling. These attackers were phonies, not real soldiers. She immediately scrubs the mission to Camp M2, flagging it as a death trap. Just as a soldier announces the train's engine is completely dead, a young woman from the survivor group steps forward, offering her expertise. A short time later, the engine roars back to life. The soldiers are completely blown away by her talent, but she just humbly brushes off the praise. Seriously impressed, Jiangling asks for the young mechanic's name. With a spark of pride, she introduces herself as Evelyn Clark. With Evelyn working her magic, their armored transport is rolling once more. The group clusters around a map to figure out a new route. They discover the closest outpost, L4, is practically at ground zero for the monster invasion. Yet Zhao Qiu fiercely argues they must go there. Evelyn confirms the grim reality. They don't have the fuel for any other destination. With innocent lives on the line, they're forced to gamble and head into the lion's den. Later, Zhao Qiu is brooding alone when Jiangling confronts him, demanding to know why he was so dead set on the suicidal route to Camp L4. She's suspicious. How could he possibly have known about their fuel situation? His mind flashes back to a previous life, one where this entire territory was utterly annihilated. She locks eyes with him, waiting for a real answer, but all he says is that he's a person who does the right thing. Jiangling is completely thrown by his cryptic non-answer, her mind racing to decipher his true agenda. A flashback erupts. A colossal insect darkens the sky over a burning camp, while another creature has a soldier impaled, a human body dangling from its limbs. The rest of the swarm pours over the shattered walls. A blade sings through the air, cleaving a monster in two and revealing a powerful, humanoid insect. It stands over a dead soldier, calmly reviewing a document amidst the inferno, muttering something about the sun and moon. The surrounding carnage reflects in its compound eyes before it utters a single, chilling word: humanity. 4 enormous wings then burst from its back. Radiating immense power, a column of pure energy blasts down from the sky, incinerating everything. This was the vision of Camp M2's final, horrifying moments. Back on the train, the rescued civilians tremble in a tight-knit group. A soldier's reassurances are useless, as Zhao Qiu watches a distant plume of smoke swell on the horizon. A suffocating dread creeps across the survivors' faces. One of them points a shaky finger, realizing with dawning horror that it isn't smoke at all. It's a massive, living tidal wave of monsters hurtling straight for them. At the very center of the horde, a humanoid leader commands the charge. The bald soldier scrambles to Jiangling, yelling her name. The gut-wrenching realization hits her. The camp's executioner is out there, and she doubts she can win this. A close-up shows its terrifying form reflected in her eye, and in its eye, we see her own face, steeled with unyielding resolve. The creature gives a single, bone-chilling command: exterminate humanity. The swarm dives, a living tsunami, intent on swallowing them whole. A monstrous hand suddenly crushes one of its own minions, revealing the powerful humanoid insect leader. It declares that the human race is its new obsession. It then unleashes a devastating sonic scream that smashes into their train like a physical fist, launching the massive armored vehicle clean off its tracks. Inside is pandemonium as the survivors are tossed about like rag dolls. Evelyn is hurled toward an open hatch as the train grinds to a halt on its side, but a hand snatches her wrist just in the nick of time. It's Zhao Qiu, pulling her back from the brink of death. He pulls her to safety beside Jiangling. The three of them stand before the demolished train, planting their feet against its twisted metal hull. Jiangling's eyes narrow with sheer grit. They dig their feet into the rubble, and with an unbelievable surge of power, they physically heave the train upright. Evelyn's jaw hits the floor, staring at their godlike display of strength. The other survivors can only gape in stunned silence. Jiangling instantly starts barking orders, commanding her troops to establish a defensive perimeter. She tasks Evelyn with getting the train operational for a quick getaway. In her cold, pragmatic mind, the train is more valuable than the civilians. She believes only the powerful have the right to secure humanity's future. She hurls her spear into the advancing swarm, unleashing a storm of violet lightning that vaporizes the front line. Jiangling becomes a whirlwind of death, carving a bloody path through the insectoid horde as her lightning-infused spear tears their ranks to shreds. The rescued soldiers can't process her power level, muttering that even their rank 7 commander wasn't this much of a beast. A formidable winged insectoid observes the chaos from above. A survivor's face drains of color as he recognizes the monster that leveled their camp. Jiangling and Zhao Qiu stand back to back, ready for the main event. As the ground beneath them cracks from an unseen force, she launches herself skyward. She rockets toward the new threat, a humanoid insect that waits calmly for her assault. Jiangling channels all her strength into her spear thrust, but the creature stops it cold with a single arm. Her eyes widen in absolute disbelief as the monster sends her careening backward with a single, devastating kick. She is blasted across the entire battlefield, impacting the ground with a bone-shattering crunch. Her squad mates scream her name, paralyzed with horror. The insectoid leader dives in for the killing blow, its arm glowing and morphing into a massive, deadly scythe. Trapped in the crater, Jiangling looks up as her doom descends. With a guttural cry, she wrenches her spear into a defensive stance, desperately trying to block the strike as the monster's blade comes crashing down on her. Without warning, the creature unleashes a storm of razor-sharp projectiles. In a blur of motion, Jiangling and Zhao Qiu collide, the sheer force of their clash splintering the surrounding trees into nothing. She looms over him, his name a question on her lips, but he just tells her to clean up the small fry while he handles something more important. She watches him vanish into the chaos, screaming after him not to dare die, just as another monster is sent cartwheeling through the forest. A colossal foot craters the earth, revealing the insectoid general from the camp. It stands alone in a clearing, it carved out with its own power. Its eyes lock onto the approaching Zhao Qiu, identifying him as human. But Zhao Qiu flips the script, asking if it's the monster, or if he is. Then, he drops his mask. "I'm neither," he declares, as shadowy tendrils of energy writhe and explode from his blade, consuming him in a vortex of transformation. He taunts the beast, calling it by its name, Blood Raven, and daring it to unleash its true power. A shiver of pure dread crawls down the insect monster's spine. It decides it has to strike first and end this now. It lunges, a desperate, powerful punch connecting squarely with its opponent's face. The impact generates a cataclysmic shockwave that rips through the forest, kicking up a blinding cloud of dust and debris. But as the smoke clears, a silhouette emerges. Zhao Qiu stands there, having caught the earth-shattering blow effortlessly. He glances down at the fist in his hand, asking, "Is that it? Is that all you've got?" The insect can only stare back, in raw, primal terror, as Zhao Qiu, now in his demonic form, faces the leader and launches it into the horizon with one apocalyptic blow. He snatches its fist from the air, his voice a low growl. "That's enough. Now, it's my turn." Frozen in disbelief, the insectoid's multifaceted eyes reflect 1,000 images of its own destruction, right before a torrent of dark energy obliterates its chest. Standing victorious in his terrifying new form, Zhao Qiu pins the fallen demon god to the ground and lets his blade, Blood Raven, drink its very essence. A sickly green vortex of energy engulfs the sword, and from within its swirling depths, a single, malevolent red eye snaps open. The blade has awakened a new skill, Crowtide, and Zhao Qiu can feel the thrumming power. His weapon is evolving. Back at the train, an eerie silence blankets the battlefield. A soldier gives the all-clear the area is secure, with 0 casualties, but no one feels relieved. Zhao Qiu had charged in, sacrificing himself for them, and now Jiangling is just staring off into the distance, lost. Then, a soldier's cry of disbelief cuts through the tension. A lone figure strolls out of the ravaged woods. It's Zhao Qiu, walking calmly back to the group, as if he'd just gone for a walk, confirming he handled the monster. The bald soldier is in utter shock, stammering if he's even stronger than a rank 7 commander. A flash of the final, devastating strike is all the answer he needs. Meanwhile, inside the train car, Evelyn is patching up the wounded. After all the chaos, Jiangling and Zhao Qiu are sitting in a heavy silence. She finally thanks him for what he did back there, but he just plays it cool, asking what she's talking about, forcing her to spell it out. "You saved my life." She remarks that his power is growing at an impossible speed, just like the urban legends about the vigilante known only as Mask. At that exact moment, Evelyn bursts in, her face pale with bad news. The radio equipment is completely dead, and she suspects their signal isn't just lost, it's being actively jammed. They are totally and completely isolated in the desert. Out of nowhere, Zhao Qiu feels a strange energy wash over him as a vision of a dark, star-filled cosmos flashes before his eyes. A new mission materializes in his mind, a quest to exterminate an entire sea of monsters, with the reward being a partial evolution into a full-fledged demon god. The insane stakes leave him completely stunned. As the train barrels through the wasteland, the radio suddenly crackles back to life. A signal is breaking through the static. It's a communication from Army Camp L4. Jiangling immediately orders them to respond. Evelyn quickly relays their current status and location, and Camp L4 replies, offering them sanctuary and safe harbor. Evelyn confirms they can make it to the camp in under 3 hours, and for the first time in what feels like forever, the exhausted survivors feel a glimmer of hope. But then, another voice cuts through the static, a chilling, distorted warning telling them not to trust Camp L4. A hand grabs the radio mic as a desperate voice screams through the static. A soldier listens, his face draining of all color at the news. Army Camp L4 has fallen. It's been overrun. The new voice on the comms frantically gives coordinates for a different survivor camp, pleading with the armored train to change course and respond. But a silent, cold warning echoes through the carriage. Jiangling's soldiers are torn on what to do, but her gut is screaming that this is wrong. While the civilians panic, arguing that it's a trap, she turns to the one person who seems to have all the answers, Zhao Qiu. His response is simple and terrifying. Don't go to either place. They're both traps. His mind flashes back to his previous life, a world already consumed by fire. He remembers a time when hyper-intelligent monsters had crushed and enslaved all of humanity. But in his memory, Campbell 4 didn't fall this quickly. His presence here has altered the timeline. He wonders if this change is for the better or for the worse. A grim smile crosses his lips as he thinks, how could it possibly be worse than the apocalypse he's already seen? With only 4 hours of fuel left in the tank, they have no other options. They head toward the so-called temporary campsite. They're met by a squad of men in matching black uniforms who claim to be fellow survivors. But these men are traitors, luring unsuspecting victims to be slaughtered by monsters. Before they can spring their trap, Zhao Qiu executes every single one of them. A flashback hits. Evelyn, weeping, completely consumed by guilt. We see a journal entry detailing humanity's conspiracies and the fall of camp after camp, just before a silver-haired soldier snaps the book shut. She and Zhao Qiu discuss the attack, confirming it was far too organized. Their worst fear is a reality. The monsters have evolved. They've gained intelligence. Zhao Qiu remembers a shadowy monster god from his past life, a master of disguise and deception that he was never truly able to defeat. A soldier's eye catches his wicked-looking blade. Flying Raven, he says, his voice flat. A gift from a friend. His expression freezes over, a look that says he's seen this movie before, and it doesn't end well. At that exact moment, she whips up her binoculars, scanning the horizon. A colossal cloud of dust is boiling toward them. It's a tide of monsters, thousands strong, and they're stampeding. They're making a beeline for Camp A1, she yells into her comms. But another soldier's panicked shout cuts her off, pointing at something new. A convoy of armored vehicles is tearing across the sand, spitting a hailstorm of fire directly into the swarm. The entire horde erupts into a wall of flame. She can't help but be impressed by their battlefield finesse as their own transport vehicle guns it. The bald dude lets out a cheer friendlies, but his relief evaporates as a soldier from the convoy levels his rifle, snarling that they must be traitors to have survived that onslaught. That's when a man covered in bandages steps in, ordering his soldier to lower his weapon. Stand down, he says calmly. I know who they are. Back at Camp A1, every survivor is immediately thrown into quarantine, branded as potential turncoats. A blond guy, clearly the one in charge, approaches with a heavy look on his face. He breaks the news to Zhang Ling. Camp 3 has been completely evacuated and rigged to blow. The weight of that hits her. If they're ditching entire cities, things are bad. He justifies the quarantine, blaming it on traitors in their own ranks. This makes her ask the million-dollar question. How did the monsters suddenly get so smart? He points the finger at the so-called monster gods, and then drops a bombshell. He thinks she might be the key to figuring it all out. Zhang Ling is just left there, totally confused about why he'd pin that on her. Meanwhile, inside their holding cell, Zhao Qiu is laser-focused on a military map. She walks over, asking what he's hunting for, and he casually mentions a hot spring not far from here. On a nearby screen, some Federation bigwigs are giving a rah-rah speech to the soldiers, and Zhang Ling has to admit, at least these suits can actually fight. But right then, guards march in with fresh orders straight from the top. Their quarantine's been cut short. They're being shipped to the front. Their gear is shoved back into their hands for the fight ahead. Zhang Ling is floored. They're being sent out without so much as a background check. Zhao Qiu immediately requests that Evelyn be put on his team, and the guard just nods. Their new assignment? Leading the redemption camp, basically a glorified suicide squad. Zhang Ling scoffs, looking at their pathetic morale and non-existent skills. This guard then slides a box of communicators toward them, explaining that they're shielded from monster interference. Then he tells Zhao Qiu that he gets the privilege of picking his own deployment zone. The guard starts to suggest the absolute deadliest sector on the map, but his voice falters, nervously waiting for Zhao Qiu's choice. Another official tries to warn him off, but Zhang Ling cuts in, confirming that's exactly where they're going, leaving the guy completely dumbfounded. He finally, hesitantly, agrees, and offers to scrounge up some supplies for the slaughterhouse they're walking into. Zhao Qiu lays out his real plan. Use the camp's death row inmates as cannon fodder in an impossible battle. Zhang Ling immediately pushes back, saying the risk is insane, but Zhao Qiu just stands there, radiating a chilling confidence. The prisoners themselves are freaking out, convinced they're being marched to their own execution, on the front lines. But Zhao Qiu just tells Evelyn they have to make it work, sliding her a crate full of bizarre-looking gadgets. He hands her a map, ordering her and Zhang Ling to go plant them. The rest of the prisoners just stare them down, eyes full of defiance. But Zhao Qiu doesn't even flinch. He tells the lowlifes he likes the fire in their eyes. That pushes one guy over the edge. He whips out a pistol, furious at the disrespect, and shoves it right in Zhao Chu's face. The inmate makes a disgusting demand for the women, and a storm of pure rage ignites in Zhongling's eyes. Her spear becomes a blur, whistling past Evelyn's ear, crackling with violent purple energy. The prisoner's face twists in sheer, absolute terror. She looks at Zhao Chu. "Can I kill just one?" she asks, and with one savage arc of her weapon, she does. Instantly, every other prisoner raises their gun in response, so Zhongling responds by slamming her spear into the earth, erupting a maelstrom of crackling purple lightning. A few of the inmates start to look real nervous, as Zhao Chu steps forward to lay down the law. "Follow my orders, or you die." He stands before them, a general born from the chaos, leaving both Zhongling and Evelyn speechless. Through a pair of binoculars, they watch the army's front line get absolutely shredded, with soldiers ripped to pieces by hulking beasts while massive monster commanders carve a bloody path right through them. Evelyn pulls the binoculars from her eyes. "We're completely boxed in," she reports grimly. The news sends the prisoners into a full-blown panic, screaming and accusing Zhao Chu of marching them into a meat grinder. But he just tells them that fighting is the only way out. He promises them he can lead them through this, that he'll pull off a miracle. The men go dead silent, torn between raw terror and a tiny spark of hope. He immediately starts splitting them into squads, barking out strict orders and handing each group their only lifeline, a walkie-talkie. Then, he begins to move his new makeshift army across the battlefield like pieces on a chessboard, tasking Evelyn with planting a series of miniature nuclear devices as traps. All of a sudden, his radio crackles to life with an incoming call. It's Group B. They're screaming into the mic that they've stumbled right into the monster horde. You can just see them, running for their lives, begging for an extraction that's never going to happen. But Zhao Chu's voice is ice cold, rattling off precise tactical orders that leave the squad completely baffled, wondering how he knows exactly what the enemy is doing. Trusting him, they sprint through the forest and burst out onto a riverbank where another squad is waiting, just like he said they would be. Seconds later, a tide of monsters swarms the opposite bank. That's when it clicks for the men. He wasn't leading them to their deaths. He was leading them into an ambush with them, as the hunters. With a new fire in their eyes, they pull the pins and let loose a hailstorm of grenades. The world just erupts in a deafening explosion. A skeletal beast gets absolutely torched by the explosion, sent flying toward the water's edge as it unleashes one final, desperate shriek. The second Xiao Qiu gives the signal to blow the mines. Another wave of explosions rips the battlefield apart, all while he stays ice cold, coordinating his teams over the comms. From a bird's-eye view, his master plan becomes terrifyingly clear. He's using the landscape itself to herd the monsters into perfectly laid-out death traps. The prisoners are shook, wondering how he predicted their every single move, and it dawns on them that following this guy is their one and only shot at making it out alive. At his word, they unleash a storm of grenades from the cliff tops, engulfing the horde in an inferno of fire and steel. It's a total Hail Mary, and it connects, and a roar of victory erupts from the survivors. After the battle, the squads regroup on the mountaintop, where the next stage of Xiao Qiu's insane plan kicks off. Using Zhongling's power to set off bombs deep inside an extinct volcano, a biblical flood of water erupts from the earth, triggering a devastating avalanche that just smashes the monsters into oblivion. The entire horde is caught in the deluge, their path of retreat completely annihilated. Back at headquarters, the generals are staring at their screens, utterly speechless, but they hand all the credit to some high-ranking official's lackey. This suit then arrives by private jet to soak up all the glory for himself. And the prisoner's reward for saving the day? Not freedom. It's a one-way ticket back to their cages. The moment they realize their victory was stolen, the prison erupts. Inside, the commander-in-chief's private quarters at Camp 1, a top-ranking officer is getting grilled. He's asked about the little disturbance at the prison, and a congressman chimes in, questioning why they're basically toying with the inmates' lives. The officer just scoffs, spinning the story to make it sound like the criminals started the whole thing and got exactly what they deserved. He then adds that he'll make sure the 3 survivors from the other camps are watching very closely, and the congressman immediately folds, promising it won't be a problem again. The officer then switches gears, asking about a delivery of some special weapons. The congressman flashes a sinister grin, revealing they've already been deployed to the front lines. On the battlefield, regular soldiers are hunkered down behind flimsy sandbags as a tidal wave of grotesque monsters stampedes right for them. The men are drenched in a cold sweat, completely outmatched, when they suddenly get the order to fall back for support troops coming from Star City. A colossal foot stomps down, crushing their defenses flat, telling them to scram, as a scientist gives a hulking, bioengineered soldier a simple command: attack. A whole squad of these enhanced warriors prepares to move out, every single one of them jacking up on a fresh injection of combat stimulants. Vials of crimson liquid pump the drug into their systems, causing their hearts to pound like war drums with some freaky energy. The visors on their helmets ignite with a menacing red glow, and wielding swords bigger than most men, they launch themselves into the fray. These super soldiers literally dive headfirst into the sea of monsters, while the scientists watching them remark that their complete and utter madness is what makes them so powerful. The retreating soldiers can only stare, wondering who the real monsters are here. One of the enhanced fighters swings his massive blade, just as a regular soldier grabs a scientist, screaming that this is nothing but a suicide mission. The scientist explains this is not a suicide run. This is the only way for them to break their limiters and unleash their true power. The soldier beside him is left speechless as a brand new bioengineered warrior steps up to face a legion of monsters all by himself. The creature gives off a familiar vibe, but he promises the power he's packing is on a whole other level. Another enhanced soldier roars, demanding a second hit of the drug. He clenches his fist with raw power, feeling the energy coursing through his veins, primed to unleash absolute destruction. Vials of a red serum surge into his system, and he proceeds to crush a monster's skull in his bare hand, shattering it in a gruesome display of power. He moves like a blur, leaving streaks of red energy behind him as he carves through the beasts effortlessly. An entire squad of these super soldiers tears through the swarm, leaving a grisly trail of dismembered monsters in their wake. The soldier from before is in total awe. They actually did it, the scientist smirks, boasting that his modifications can turn anyone into a god. The battlefield is now a graveyard, littered with the heads of the fallen as the enhanced soldiers march through the carnage. They bring back the severed head of a massive beast, and the scientist declares it a valuable specimen that must be kept. The lead soldier demands to be sent back into the fight, but the scientist shuts him down, insisting on a full checkup first. A scientist on the field suddenly realizes something is terribly wrong, and his face contorts in pure terror, as a colossal shadow completely engulfs his squad. It's a gigantic monster with glowing red eyes, and he realizes it's been Frankenstein together from all the dead creatures. But a masked soldier vows to kill it anyway. Rocketing himself forward with incredible speed, he soars high into the air, right towards the beast, bringing his blade down in a savage arc. But he seems shocked by what happens next. He lands hard on the monster's massive arm. As the scientist realizes it's a 9th-rank threat, the soldier refuses to quit, grabbing his enhancers, determined to survive this and kill them all. He slams a dose directly into his own arm, and the vials on his back begin to boil violently. He lets out a scream of pure agony. As his body starts to rip apart and transform, his mask shatters, revealing a horrifying new form. The scientist can only watch, frozen in horror, as the transformed soldier raises a massive, clawed hand. The other men are stunned by what he's become, just as the giant monster's own fist clenches, ready for round 2. Atop the wreckage, a transformed soldier clenches his bandaged fists. He's spoiling for a fight. A grotesque creature is straight up frozen in shock, trapped by a colossal shadow beast. From the darkness, a massive hand emerges and clenches into a fist with no escape. The monster pleads for its life, but it's instantly crushed in a raw show of force. From a distance, a horrified scientist can only watch the slaughter. The shadowy titan savors the thrill of the hunt as it towers over humanity's last stand. Meanwhile, back at HQ, an officer gets a nightmare report. Multiple 9th-rank monsters are making a move. He lets out a curse and bolts to his balcony to see it firsthand. The sight is pure terror. Gigantic shadows stalk across the desert, right for the city. He knows, deep down, a monster god is pulling the strings. A shadowy man in a suit confirms his worst fears, pinning the whole crisis on the hero mask. He demands a full rundown of their top-tier fighters. While the officer nervously lists their assets, the suit reveals a twisted plan. He wants to nuke their own city. He brushes off the officer's protests about civilian casualties. Defeated, the officer accepts the grim calculus and agrees to set things in motion. Down on the ground, soldiers are scrambling to the city walls. Just as Zhong Ling and Zhao Qiu hit the front line, an entire horde of massive shadow beasts bears down on them. A man in a mask instantly recognizes their aura. It's the unmistakable presence of the monster god of wisdom. One of the shadow creatures unleashes a guttural roar, just as a dragon-like beast lunges in for the attack, sinking its fangs deep into the shadow's arm. The creature gets viciously ripped to shreds, and the soldiers can only watch in horror as something is flung high into the air, slamming straight into the city's defensive barrier. It's followed by a volley of dark projectiles, which relentlessly pound the wall with catastrophic force. The giant shadow monster's eyes flare with an ominous light. As it surveys the absolute chaos it's unleashed, it smashes its fists into the earth, and through the dust, a lone blonde swordsman stands his ground. Through the haze, a single crimson eye glares down. The colossal beast towers over the solitary fighter and brings its fist down with world-shattering force, but its body explodes into a swarm of smaller creatures, a legion of different monster types. A massive, grotesque wolf lunges forward, roaring, only to be impaled on Zhongling's lightning spear. Fighting back to back, she screams for a plan, but he just tells her it's way too late for that. Elsewhere, a masked woman stares down a monstrous lion. She explodes with violent purple lightning, funneling that raw power straight into her spear. She blazes across the battlefield, a lone figure against a literal sea of monsters. Turns out, her mask is actually a limiter, suppressing her own insane power. She's still haunted by the question of who let her mother die. Now, she's decided it's time to drag some answers out of the underworld. Crackling with raw energy, she steps to the ledge and dives headfirst into the horde. Her spear smashes into the ground with overwhelming force, unleashing a shockwave of pure destruction that carves a path through the swarm. A giant looms ahead, and she rockets towards the massive beast, poised to strike. But the Titan meets her attack with a devastating haymaker, sending her flying backward, completely overwhelmed by the raw power, plummeting toward the ground. Out of nowhere, a masked man snatches her from the air, landing safely with her inside a newly formed crater. He tells her she's done enough. As she lies there, totally spent, his eyes are ice cold and locked with purpose. He explains that she's not ready to take on an 8th rank monster, and then he corrects himself, his body dissolving into pure shadow as a dark and sinister energy begins to swirl around him, a terrifying new aura exploding from his body. A monstrous foot slams down hard, revealing a warrior encased in demonic armor. Evelyn looks up, her face a mask of shock. It's Zio Q. A giant shadow monster makes a grab for him, just as a stray energy blast erupts nearby. The transformed Zio Q rockets toward the beast's hand, effortlessly weaving through a volley of hurled boulders. The colossal monster glares down with pure malice, but a crimson beam of energy slams into its shoulder. A glowing wound sears itself across its chest, and Zio Q's blade cleaves clean through its arm. The creature's head detonates in a spray of red as Zio Q siphons its life force straight into his hand. The soldiers are absolutely floored by how fast the monster was taken down. An official confirms it that warrior is the transformed human from Daff City. The congressman just sees a new lab rat to capture for his experiments. A voice crackles over the radio. The nuclear launch is a go. 35 warheads are inbound. It dawns on the soldiers. They're bait, and there's no escape. The congressman just calmly cleans his glasses, muttering that their sacrifice won't be in vain. He cracks a smirk, promising history will remember them as the missiles start to fall. But a sword is raised against the coming doom. A single, powerful slash tears through the sky itself. The congressman's glasses shatter in his clenched fist. As he whispers, "How can a demon god be on Earth?" A narrator explains the cosmic web connecting worlds, which is how lesser monsters sneak through to our side. The demon god? That's on another level. This threat fractured the Federation, causing a massive rift with the hero mask, and he lost support for his warmongering. Back in the present, humanity unleashes its ultimate weapon. But as the nuclear missiles scream toward their target, a colossal, demonic eye rips open the sky. Out of nowhere, dark portals materialize and swallow the warheads whole, only to spit them back out, aimed directly at the human forces below. The congressman realizes with dawning horror that the nukes were just teleported. The officer is frozen, completely overwhelmed by the demon god's power. The congressman claims he's leaving to report back, but the officer sees right through it. He's just bailing. The greasy politician just walks away, abandoning the entire front line. Elsewhere, a familiar hand clenches a spear, and Jiangling looks up, stunned by a brand new threat. All around her, soldiers break rank and flee in pure terror as a fresh horde of shadow beasts charges right at them. Jagged silhouettes swallow the sky, but a lone masked warrior dives headfirst into the chaos, carving through a beast in a blinding flash of crimson energy. He sticks the landing right in the palm of a monstrous shadow titan, which immediately fires a devastating beam from its eye, an attack that detonates on the ground with cataclysmic force. There's Zhao Chu, lying in the smoking crater, wreathed in dark energy. A faint light pulses from behind his demonic mask. Without warning, a massive eye rips a hole in the heavens, and Xiao Chu's armor begins to fracture and warp as his mask shatters into a million pieces, revealing his face to the world. The colossal eye of the monster god stares down, its gaze locked directly on him. It dawns on Jiangling, the god isn't looking at the battlefield, it's looking at Xiaoqiu. She wonders why it would ever zero in on one human, unless that human was the living legend, Mask. And all the while, that cosmic eye just hangs there, watching. But Xiaoqiu just stares back, no fear in his eyes. And in that instant, the god's eye seems to recoil, and Jiangling has a terrifying realization. The monster god is scared. The massive eye begins to warp and tremble, folding in on itself as it desperately backs away before completely vanishing from the sky. Down below, the giant shadow creatures pivot and flee, their bodies dissolving into dust and stone. The entire monster legion is now in a full-blown, panicked retreat. One soldier just gapes at the now empty battlefield, speechless, while his buddy screams that they're actually running away. All across the wall, a wave of triumphant roars erupts from the surviving soldiers. Voiceover explains that the monster god had always been terrified of him, and only dared to attack after he'd thrown away his legendary identity. As Mask, Xiao Qiu considers the monster god's retreat, realizing his own power is now on another level, as a system alert confirms his new path, a partial ascension to a monster god himself. But this insane new power comes at a steep price, a gnawing, primal hunger to obliterate and devour everything in sight. Jiang Ling tries to stick up for him with the officer, but that shady congressman from before steps forward, pointing a finger and accusing Xiao Qiu of masterminding the entire invasion. She fires back that he fought to save humanity, but the officer shuts her down with a cold threat, accusing them both of being demon conspirators. His squad starts to close in on the two, but Xiao Qiu couldn't care less, casually flicking his wrist and vaporizing two distant creatures without even looking. The officer screams that he's shown his true colors now, but he's completely floored by the sheer power Xiao Qiu still has. Then, out of nowhere, the congressman materializes right behind the officer, trapping him in a bizarre green energy field. A blade whistles through the air, and the congressman is run through from behind, blood spraying across the dirt. He crumples to the ground with a sword sticking straight through his chest. Xiao Qiu just watches with chilling apathy, leaving the officer paralyzed with sheer terror as a commander screams for his men to pull back. But his retreat is cut off by a monstrous new figure. Completely terrified, he screams that the warrior is a traitor. The warrior's mask partially melts away, revealing Xiao Qiu, who calmly promises to do what monsters are supposed to do, and the commander is instantly annihilated. A soldier stares at the carnage, totally stunned, as a man in a suit smashes his fist into the ground. He claims to be blind but says he knew the warrior's real identity this whole time. He bellows that Mask has finally made his return, dropping to his knees in reverence. He offers Mask total command of the armies and the Congress, but Mask just glares down at him in dead silence. Suddenly, the blind man senses an immense danger as a malevolent aura explodes from Mask's body. A raw beam of energy slams into the ground right in front of him. Elsewhere, a politician is on stage, declaring a massive victory to a cheering crowd. He brags about the millions of demons they've annihilated, then immediately shifts gears to the traitors who supposedly sabotaged the war effort. He projects massive images of Xiao Qiu, showing both his human form and his terrifying monster transformation. The crowd descends into chaos, terrified that monsters could be living among them. Suddenly, a commanding voice cuts through the noise, demanding silence. It's the blind man, now standing at the podium, delivering a nationwide address. He swears that the Federation will hunt down and eradicate every last traitor. The crowd explodes into a unified chant for justice, but a reporter spots something, yelling at her cameraman to get the shot. The news crew stares in disbelief, their camera frantically zooming in on a solitary figure. It's Xiao Qiu, perched on a nearby rooftop. The crowd below erupts in panic, screaming that he's a monster, as soldiers rush forward, howling for his head. One of them soars through the air, his blade poised to strike, but Xiao Qiu doesn't even flinch. He parries the attack with a single, almost lazy, motion. As the rest of the soldiers swarm him, they are all violently thrown back by his overwhelming power, and the ones still standing know their only option is to call for backup. A dark, menacing aura radiates from Xiao Qiu as he stands among the wreckage, striding past the broken soldiers, without giving them a second look. He gazes down at the horrified civilians when a blonde guy in the crowd recognizes him, remembering a time when they were allies, fighting for the same cause. But he doubts Xiao Qiu even remembers his name, feeling like a complete nobody next to the legendary Mask. He thinks back to how the people once idolized him. A sick, twisted smile spreads across his face as he realizes this is his chance to finally crush his old rival. He reaches into his coat, ready to unleash his own power. He steps out from the crowd to face Xiao Qiu head-on. He clenches his jaw, his thoughts racing a mile a minute. He plants his feet, clutching some strange device in his hand, knowing his window of opportunity is closing fast. He remembers fighting side by side with Xiao Qiu, but now his former partner stands before the world while he kneels on the pavement, utterly defeated before the fight has even begun. He then reveals his identity to the entire world. I am Mask. A shockwave of disbelief rips through the crowd. They just can't accept it, even as his face is plastered on every screen in the city. He tells them he didn't come back to be a hero, declaring that humanity only needs him for its own survival. His expression is ice cold, and his message is brutally clear, leaving the public totally baffled by his newfound arrogance. He reveals it was their crippling fear of his power that forced them to banish him. He scoffs at Iraq, calling their pride absolutely pathetic. He then lays out his endgame. He will bleed them of all their resources to fuel his own ascent, and declares that from this moment on, the world is his to command. Glued to the broadcast, the horrifying truth finally crashes down on Zhongling, and a single tear escapes, tracing a path down her cheek. But from the crowd, a new chant starts to swell as the masses drop to their knees in submission, hailing their new master.